What's up? Welcome to today's live stream. Saturday, June 7th, and I'm going to be watching some videos, reacting, sharing some potential hot takes, maybe. I had to figure out where I left off. All right, so this is a video. I have no idea what it is. I don't remember adding it, but apparently I did. I haven't streamed in a few days, so that explains it. But we're going to go ahead and go through this video and see what this person has to say. Maybe I'll make it through it. We'll see. I no longer feel the need to make it through all of these videos, so if I'm not feeling it, I'm gonna move on. I'm sharing the links in the chat, so if you happen to be watching this in VOD, just make sure you click the chat, and as I share these, you will see the links. So if you like something, or if you're like, oh, he left it and I wanted to hear more, like, that's cool. You do that on your own time. I'm not about to waste my time with that. I will go ahead and like the video, whether I like it or not, simply because, I mean, hell, like, I understand what it's like to put stuff out there, put content out there. You gotta at least like the effort, right? All right, so we went ahead and shared it. Let's get into this.
America is getting to be out of control. I'm a 28-year-old guy from Wisconsin, and over the last year, I've lived in 3 different countries: America, Colombia, and Portugal, and I visited many, many more outside of that. Leaving the US gave me a perspective that I never could have had while living there. It's changed how I see everything, from money to happiness to thinking about what really matters. So today we're going to discuss some uncomfortable truths about America and about the world, what America's good at, what they're bad at, some business opportunities between countries, and more. And full disclosure, America has given me so much. It's such a big advantage in the world, and I almost feel guilty criticizing it. But we're going to put it on blast today, what it does well, what it doesn't. And let's be honest with ourselves. It can be very difficult to live in America in today's environment and become trapped in the working cycle there. So I want to weigh in on this. And of course, if you live in other countries as well, I'd love to hear about your experiences.
I do agree with his take so far. It doesn't matter if America is great, and I'm not saying that to dismiss, some of the truly great things that we have here, but the second where you get into this mindset that you can't criticize anything that has some good qualities, that's actually when things kind of go downhill. All right. The only way we become better is if we are honest about our flaws. And I think this is indicative that he actually cares about the country. If you care enough to speak up about it and try to articulate some of the negatives of our society, to me, that's a good thing. But I know that there are a certain class of people and Americans who would not believe that, but I'm gonna be real. I don't care about them or value their opinions. Those people are dogmatic, and honestly, I don't respect them.
Please comment them below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I want to talk real quick about why you should travel and the insane personal growth that comes from it.
You should travel too.
Most people live in a bubble, and I did too for a long time. I grew up in Wisconsin, went to school there, university there, all my family lives there, and that's my entire world. That was my bubble. And when you live in a wealthy, first world, developed country, it's really easy to take things for granted because it's very comfortable. But here's the thing, is that your learning is pretty limited when you're in that bubble. You stay comfortable, you follow the same routine. And while there's nothing wrong with loving where you're from, like I really did love Wisconsin, part of me always wondered what else is out there. So traveling eventually changed everything for me, because when you leave, you're forced to see your own country through new eyes, and you gain perspective, you get uncomfortable, you learn new things, you grow. Eventually, living in the same place just starts to feel stale, and you have to shake things up. We got to experience new things. I was learning a new language, a new culture, new way of living, not just to learn about the world, but to learn about myself. So if you ever get the chance to travel, I would take it. Might be the most valuable education you'll ever get. So it's no secret that America gets a lot of attention and a lot of criticism, both from within America and outside the world. And some of it's just negativity and outrage culture, but a lot of it's justified. And there are times when living in America feels exhausting and even unlivable, especially if you don't know how to play the game correctly. I was fortunate that I learned how to navigate the system, build wealth, escape the grinds, but not everyone gets that chance. And it wasn't until I left the US that I really started to see how deep some of these problems go. So let's talk about some of them. One of the main problems with America is the work culture and almost burnout culture. So burnout is normalized. People work extremely hard. The hustle is worshipped. In America, you're kind of told that you have to work to live, but it often ends up just living to work. Like, it's a very materialistic and productivity obsessed culture. And sometimes that mindset just gets baked into you. One thing that exposed this for me was when the power went out in Portugal. Social media was showing people, sipping wine and relaxing away from technology like nothing's going on. And me, on the other hand, I was stressed out. I had meetings that day. I had consults that day that I couldn't attend, deadlines to hit for software, and I couldn't reach anyone.
This may explain why I am the way I am now, is that I have traveled extensively. And I've also had a level of success financially that most people don't see or they don't get to. And yeah, when you go somewhere, like in my case, this was Africa. I've been to 16 or 17 countries in Africa. And obviously it's very diverse, like different places within Africa are in different stages of development. But one of the things that became very clear to me is how little work and career actually matter. And I'm just when I'm just out in the middle of nowhere. Honestly, I don't even know where I was in some of the cases. I just know I'm in this place called this country, and I don't really know where I was. But it's interesting how not having all of these things puts things into perspective. Obviously, I had stuff, but it was all in storage. I had moved out of, I put everything in storage, so I wasn't really concerned with material things. And one of the things that I recognize is material shit don't really matter at all. I didn't even miss it. And after a few months of living this way, I started to come to the conclusion that working is stupid. What am I working for? Let's just be real. What do we work for? I think we've been conditioned in our society to believe that we have to slave away for the benefits of some person who owns capital. And honestly, I don't even think it's just recent. I think that this has been the case since the Enlightenment era in the West. We had feudalism, and today we still have feudalism. It's just called something different now. Instead of it being lords and peasants and kings, it's now vassals. So think about the corporations, right? It's the corporations. They have their own little mini fiefdoms, and their peasants are employees. Nothing's really changed. And now it's gotten even worse now, where even some of the lords are now being demoted to minor lords. And what I mean by that is, today, if you want to start any type of not any type of business, but a lot of businesses rely on computing. And a lot of the services that operate are built on top of other platforms. Think of AWS, Azure, Google, Google Cloud. They're all built on these other major players who essentially are seeking rent. So now, even our small, medium enterprises have become vassals to these, I don't even know how do you even explain it? This is a new thing. This is something that's new. We have digital fiefdoms. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's completely different from what it used to be. It used to be based on land. Now it's based on compute. And when I was abroad, I just started to recognize that fact, as well as the role that I played in not only helping to build it, but also perpetuate it. The first time I went to Nigeria, I was actually going to evangelize, essentially, basically a glorified evangelism trip for GitHub, to win the African continent so that Africa would use GitHub, and I guess now by extension, Microsoft.
And I was stressed. I was pissed. Meanwhile, everyone around me, the whole world around me, was just chilling, relaxing. And I realized that was a me problem. That stress response was kind of conditioned into me by the years of, the American hustle culture. Another thing with America is the cost of living has gotten brutal. It's so easy to fall into the, almost the trap, the cycle, where you need a car, then you need a house, then you're buried in bills, you got to pay for a ton of insurance, and your lifestyle inflates. Most people go and get on a treadmill that they can't step off of.
Yeah, he's talking about the hedonic treadmill. In America, it feels like we are living to work. That's the only purpose of our life. That's what it feels like, is to work. And I think that's inverted. And I think that we're starting to see the ramifications of that mentality here in this country. Just think about it. You can go and work 8, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. If you do that for 5, 10 years, what do you really have to show for it? I do understand that there are going to be some people who are like, oh, if you work extra hard, you'll make a lot of money, blah, 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 bullshit. I know so many people who've worked way harder than I have and haven't even come within a fraction of what I've been able to accomplish, which tells me that it doesn't matter how hard you work. That's not to say that I didn't work hard. It's just to say that I think that's the wrong lens to look at things through. To say, oh, if you just work harder, maybe you'll. I don't believe that anymore. I'm at a point now where I don't even see the incentive of working hard in this country because what does that get you? You work your ass off, you pay more in taxes. You work your ass off, you want to live in a nicer area. Well, get ready to fork up $4,000 to $6,000 a month to rent. At least in a city, I'm in Houston. Houston wasn't always expensive, but it seems expensive now. I never would have thought I would see the day where a 2-bedroom apartment goes for $6,500 a month. Never in my life would I would have imagined that. When I was coming up, the rent was for a 2-bedroom about $900, maybe $1,250 for a more luxury apartment. Things are getting a little bit wild.
We always talk about the greatness of the American economy, but people aren't taking advantage of it because it's difficult to. A lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, just kind of unable to escape the situation they're in, and that's tough. And inflation hits really hard. And every time I come back to America, I really feel it. Like, for example, there was one weekend where I went and spent a weekend in Colombia with my girlfriend and her family. And I remember at the airport, I withdrew about $100 worth of Colombian pesos to exchange and use there. And that lasted me 4 days, paid for most of my meals, and that was more than enough. Then I landed in Miami on the way back to Wisconsin, and I paid $55 for a cheeseburger and a beer and fries at the airport restaurant. So that contrast was insane. Literally in 1 hour, I spent about half what I did the entire trip in this other country. I mean,
That's one of the things that's always shocking when you come back to America after being gone for an extended period of time, is just how expensive things are. I've been here for a while now. I haven't left in about a year and a half or so, I think. I think it's been a year and a half. And I'm still shocked when I go to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store last night. I'm going to name everything that I bought. I didn't buy much. That should be a strong hint that I didn't get much. I got 5 apples. I got 1 personal watermelon and 1 yellow meat watermelon, like yellow flesh. It's slightly larger. I got a bottle of barbecue sauce, like the Japanese barbecue sauce. And gosh, what else? I think that's it. No, that's a lie. 2 packages of Rainier cherries. Man, it's insane how much money I spent last night for that. I have the receipt. Hold on. Just so we're clear, right? Let me pull this up. I'm gonna try to. Maybe it'll focus. Maybe they're gonna focus. Probably not. Oh well, it's not gonna focus. I'll name it out. So not the pineapples. What do you call those things? Watermelons. 2 watermelons. Not hot sauce. Japanese barbecue sauce. 5 envy apples. Oh, and some sparkling water. They were on sale. Two for $8, basically $4 per 12 pack. My bill was $70. $70 for 8 items purchased. Most of the items for fruit. $70. Now you could be like, oh well, you got those sparkling waters. Okay, if I remove the sparkling water, the total is now $61. Or 60, actually no, that's a lie. It's $61.92 is how much I paid for some fruit and a small bottle of Japanese barbecue sauce. Meanwhile, let's say Thailand. I like the food in Thailand. That's why I'm using Thailand as an example. I can get $100 worth, like $100 worth of Thai baht. Actually, I got like $250. That $250 lasted me for like a week and a half, and I wasn't out here not spending money on dumb shit. Like I was, eating well, buying things that are now legal in Thailand. Tuk-tuks, all of it. I was able to do a lot. Oh, plus my massages. I was getting massaged every single day. I would get a Thai tea twice a day. If there would be random like street food, just get it. I come back to America. And just like this person at the airport, when you're long distance traveling, you got to stay hydrated. So I ended up getting some water. Tell me why I spent $12 for 2 bottles of water.
Just an insane contrast. Another issue in America is the lack of community. Like people are kind of
Yeah, that's a big one
disconnected because most
these
American
days.
cities are built around cars. They're not built around people. Like walkable communities are not a common thing in America, and spontaneous interaction because of this is rare. Lots of people are isolated. You know, when you
Honestly, I get what he's saying, but I think he's blaming the wrong thing. I don't think it matters that people have cars because we've had cars in our society for a while and we had more community. Here's one thing I noticed when I went to New York a few years ago. On the subway, where it's crowded as hell, people are forced to be around one another. This is what they're doing. They have one of these things out and they're like this. Everyone. And they have on headphones, just like me. And they're doing this. And you know what? It's not just here where they're doing that. One of the places, and it was strange because it was one of the first times where I really paid attention to it. And I was just like, this is not the type of lifestyle that I think is conducive to humanity. I was in South Korea. And when I'm on the subway, everybody is on their phone, looking down, headphones on. It was very interesting, to say the least. Very interesting.
have to drive somewhere, you're going to be less healthy as opposed to if you walk a lot. And people are just less happy because of it. Family seems to be a lot more valued in other cultures as well. Like people live with their families. That's way more common in other places outside of America. And this can give people better lives. In America, we value independence, and it's very common to move out. And I do believe this culture of independence and a little bit less family-friendly culture affects the happiness of Americans. Another big problem in America is the safety concerns. So America used to feel like this very safe option, and that's not always the case anymore. Like sure, there's a lot of places in America that are relatively safe, but in a lot of big cities, the crime's been rising, and you can feel it. And when I lived in Milwaukee, which obviously is not a great representation of the crime statistics in America, but bullets were shot into my apartment complex once, and it made the news. And I've literally watched cars get broken into from my window. Like, so it wasn't some rare freak event. Like this was just kind of life there. And I was in a safer area of the city, is much worse in other parts too. And I've heard similar stories from people all over the country, you know, Chicago, New York, a lot of the main cities, right?
Yeah, it's happening here as well. You know, crime is going up. Now, it seems that there is an agenda to push a lot of these things under the rug. You know, if a crime doesn't get reported, then I guess it's not a crime. Or if the police don't do anything or show up, I guess it's not a crime. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I've had some things taken. I have seen more break-ins happening. In fact, there was an attempted armed burglary in my building this year. Men with guns, and somehow they got away. I don't know how, but they got away. There was a drive-by shooting on the street that I live on. I don't live in a bad area. I guess it's becoming bad, maybe. You know, maybe that's arguable. But I have noticed a drastic deterioration of conditions. And I talked to my neighbors about these things, and they're seeing the same things. Many of them are older. So they're just like, yeah, no, I won't be around. It's something you'll have to deal with, William. But it's not been a pleasant experience. And I am seriously considering my future in this country.
So crime is becoming more of a problem in America. It's not as safe as it used to be. Next, let's talk about healthcare and food. So the healthcare system in America, obviously very controversial. In a lot of places, it's got great quality if you can afford it. Like, it's very expensive to pay for healthcare in America. And if you're self-employed, it's outrageously expensive. I pay about $600 a month just to maintain my insurance right now. There's this always this underlying fear of getting sick, going bankrupt, which isn't a thing in a lot of other countries. Like, there's a much better safety net that America really doesn't have. And now the food in America, it's more expensive, it's
And it
less
will kill you.
nutritious. It's harder to avoid those heavily processed, like kind of addictive, the crap food. Like, you have to fight to eat well.
That is so true. You had to have money. On this receipt, it says that I saved $14 on a $70 bill for 8 items. I shop at Central Market. I've been shopping there for, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 years now. That's where I get all of my stuff. Plus, on Saturdays in the morning, if I wake up in time, I'll go to the farmer's market, especially if I have cash already. I refuse to go to the ATM in the morning. But if I have cash, I normally will head to the farmer's market. And you know what's interesting is that you spend more money getting food that's healthy that without all of the pesticides, which never made sense to me because you have to pay money for those things. Whereas organic is you don't have to pay as much money for these things, but for whatever reason, organic is more expensive. And I'm the type of person where I will straight up not eat if it's not going to be the food that I find, I guess, safe for me to eat. I'm one of those where it's either I'm going to get what I want or I will take nothing. And it's a shame that if you want to eat well, and that's not to say that you want to eat high-end ingredients. I'm not saying I got to eat A5 Wagyu every day. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I need tiger prawns shipped fresh from Thailand every day. I don't need it. What I'm saying is for just basic fruit and vegetables, that shit is expensive. Very expensive. It shouldn't be the case that I can go to Chick-fil-A, and for this works, I haven't been to Chick-fil-A in years. But there's one right next door. That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm using that as an example. Should not be the case that I can go to Chick-fil-A and get a full meal with a drink for less than I can go to the grocery store and buy the ingredients and cook it myself. But for whatever reason, it's cheaper. Just like a lot of the foods in like the regular grocery store, I guess like HEB, we have HEB here. I don't know what regular is for the rest of y'all. But like a regular store like Walmart, I guess, where most of the groceries are in the middle section and it's all prepackaged goods, stuff that comes in a can, in a box, in a bag, shit like that. That stuff is so much cheaper than if you were to just go buy the individual ingredients. Like, you want to buy an onion, I'm paying $1.25 an onion right now. I almost grabbed some kiwis until I saw the price. I remembered that I'm poor now. I can't afford kiwi. It's $1 per kiwi, not the golden kiwi. These are the regular ass kiwi. They were like small. They weren't even that good looking. $1 per kiwi, not per pound, per kiwi. It's insane.
Whereas when I live in other countries, everything, just the food's incredible. It tastes better. And my body just feels better after living somewhere else. It's something I've completely noticed. Next, let's talk about the crisis I've seen in America. And I think this is a big one. America has a very deep issue, and that's what I would call a purpose and identity crisis. People feel lost, so they cling to a lot of very toxic things. One of those is politics. Lots of people, left, right, center, whatsoever, make politics their entire identity, and it's toxic. It doesn't bring you peace, just makes you watch the news and get more angry, and a lot of these people are miserable. I mean, Americans get so worked up about politics. Lots of people in other countries don't give a shit about politics, and I think that's amazing because it's just there's not that much you can control about it at the end of the day. Now, to be fair, we're going to look at the flip side of this. We're going to look at what America excels at next. So let's give some credit where credit's due. There is no other.
Before it gets into that, I do want to speak on the politics crap, the news. I haven't watched news most of my life. I've never cared. a lot of what I know is through other people, or I'll hear it through other people. But in general, I give no fucks about the news. But I have, like that man said, I have noticed that a lot of people, all they do is watch the news, and they, for whatever reason, they can't see through the fact that they are being programmed. And that's actually one of the things that frustrates me. It's not the fact that the news exists. It's the fact that people believe that these corporations really give a shit about them being informed and aren't just pushing some agenda. And then they do, like he says, they get worked up about it as if they can control it. And in my, like, I don't know why I know this and other people don't, but unless you are rich, it doesn't matter what you think. Sorry to say it, but in our country, that's just the way it is. If you don't have money, AKA power, no one gives a shit about you or what you think. So if you are going to get worked up, take that energy and go make some money. Go become someone. Go build some influence, and then you can change things in our country. That's really the only way. Should it be that way? I'm not here to say yes or no. I don't care. That's kind of the position that I've taken. You can think what you want about me. That's fine. But you can't deny the fact that unless you have power in our country, you're not going to change shit. Now, there are ways to accumulate power, but it's very hard to do those things. I think money is easier. You know, the alternative is to win over millions, tens of millions of people to your side with your ideas. But we have a very saturated marketplace of ideas. You know? So plus we have the predominant one, which is enforced through the bureaucracy and through the current culture. So it's unlikely you're going to defeat that. So you really need money. Even then, that probably isn't enough.
Other country in the world with more opportunity than America. There's a reason people risk everything just to move here. I've met immigrants who love America way more than most Americans I know because they see what's possible here and they take advantage of it. And if your goal is to make...
For what it's worth, this kind of ties into his first point of why you should travel. So while I recognize all the flaws, I am quick to come in and tell you all the things that are good. And this is one of them. It's not lost on me that I was able to move up the socioeconomic status ladder. That opportunity wouldn't have been available to me in other countries. In some countries, if you're born in a certain SES or in a certain caste or in a certain position, that's what you are. You don't move out of it. I'm not saying that this is the only country where what I've accomplished is possible or what other people here who've accomplished things in our country. I'm not saying this is the only place it's possible. It's possible in a few other places, but for the most part, you have the most opportunity here in America. You have access to some of the smartest people on planet Earth. Even if they choose not to live here, they will come visit here eventually. They will invest here. That's not the case everywhere. No, we haven't experienced brain drain yet. And this is how, and the way you know this is that most of you don't even know what that shit is. You don't know what a brain drain is and how insidious that is to a society. We've never experienced it. But I am concerned that we will one day start to experience it because we already have people who come into the country for school and then they decide that they'd rather go back home. So all of that training, all that time that was spent investing in these people goes back abroad where they will compete with us, which I think competition is good, but it's still showing that, hey, like America isn't what it used to be. And it's only a matter of time when you get people like me who say, you know what? I don't need to be here. I feel underappreciated considering, you know, the amount of taxes that I paid, and I see what other people who've done nothing, what they're getting, and like how I'm treated because I'm a man. I don't know if you realize that. So to be called toxically masculine and say, oh yeah, we don't need you. But it's like, well, if you don't need me, why the fuck? All right, why am I paying you $100,000 a year in taxes? give me my money back. If you don't need my money, give me my shit back. That's not how it works here, unfortunately.
Money, America's still the best place to do it. The data backs that up. It's one of the only countries on earth where regular people can become very wealthy and set themselves up very well. Just to give you some perspective, California, one of our bigger states, if California were its own country, it would be the fourth largest economy in the world. And think of something like Oklahoma, which most people don't think twice about. That would still rank in the top 50 of countries in terms of output. So like the access to technology, speed, capital, innovation is insane. Things just move faster in America. And when I moved to other places, Europe, Colombia, it blew my mind. Like stuff in America happens and it happens fast. And that is really not a thing a lot of other countries can say. I was a software engineer.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay. All right. We have something in common. I'm a software engineer too. Well, the point that I was about to make is I've heard that energy is in China now. And I don't know. I'm actually, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna fly there. It's relatively cheap to get there. It's more expensive for me to get there than for them to come here. I heard from someone who was visiting from Shanghai last week when we met up. He was saying that the flight was $400 to get here. I was just like, the fuck, $400. I'm over here half bragging, talking about, yeah, it's cheap. It's only $1,200. And then I was like, wait, what? Man's paid $400. But anyway, I might go to Shanghai and see for myself, because I remember there was a time when I was younger that here in America we had a energy here, like there was a buzz. This mentality that people have now, and even myself included, is cynical. It's not very optimistic. But when I was younger, it was the exact opposite. Like you could do anything, whatever you put your mind to, you could do it. Like everybody looked forward to the future. Everyone believed that the future will be better. I don't know if that's true still. And I'm saying that because it's not true for me. I don't know what it is for the rest of you, but for me, I no longer have high hope for this country improving. Maybe I'm becoming part of the problem. That's fine to me. I don't care anymore. But I think that we're only going to get worse from here. I think we peaked when I was younger, and I think it's been a slow decline. Well, it's been speeding up. It was a slow decline up until the 2008 financial crisis, and then it started to expedite from there, especially after the Occupy Wall Street movement was kind of what's the word? It wasn't ignored. It was just this is when the agenda started being pushed. I'll just say that. If you don't know what the agenda is, just take a hint. It's the pendulum that's swinging back currently, and honestly, I'm happy for it. Hey, what's up, Casual Economist? I wonder where Mississippi ranks in the world economy. It's actually, I think it too is also in the top 50. Or in the top 100. It's definitely not in the bottom. I will say that. Mississippi is richer from an economical standpoint than most countries. And I can look it up later.
In the US, and I could make $100,000 pretty early in my career. And just because I invested wisely, I was building real wealth. That's something that's much harder in other parts of the world. A huge part of the reason that I've been successful is because of where I was born, not just who I am, right?
Same.
I had access to a great education. It was a very safe area. I had a lot of technology that I could use and learn from growing up, and I had opportunities. Like, I was lucky.
Yeah, that's the same here. And that's not lost on me. But it seems that we have a lot of folks in our country who feel entitled to things, who don't recognize the privilege that they have. I shouldn't say we, because not all of us, but I hear a lot of talk about privilege in our country without these people realizing that the fact that they are in this country means they have privilege. The best example I can give is when you turn on your lights here in America, your lights turn on. We don't worry about our lights turning off. Just think about that. Here I am live streaming randomly. And I have no concern that my lights are going to go out, that the internet's going to go out, that anything's going to happen. And let's say that if one day I decide to start scheduling these live streams, I wouldn't even consider the fact that the lights could go out, because let's be real, that really doesn't happen here that much unless something, something causes it to happen, you know? So yeah, it's one of these weird things where the people who are in this country are the most privileged people on planet Earth. Even if they're not rich, even if you're born poor here in America, you're more privileged than most people on the planet Earth. You have access to more wealth than anyone else on Earth. Even poor people have access to a washing machine, drying machine, a dishwasher, a stove, microwave, air conditioning, like refrigeration, all of these things that for whatever reason you take for granted. Even the roads. This is something that, a lot of people here, they complain, oh, the roads in Houston are bad. And I'm like, they are kind of, if you, for Texas, I guess. But when you put it in the grand scheme of things, we have roads. There was a point when I was in Kenya and I shit you not, I thought I was going to die. Like, seriously. I don't know how this shit works out there, but it started raining. And, I'm from Houston. I'm like, what? It's rain. But that shit became like biblical style rain. I'm like, what the fuck? like, and then all of a sudden it started flooding and the dirt road we were on started washing away, and like people were getting stuck. And when we were in part of a caravan type of thing. Like, I had to get out to help push man. I thought that I was going to die. I was just like, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into? At least I got a fun story to tell out of it. One day I'll see if my friend, if she be up for coming and talking about that trip. It was an interesting trip.
80% of my success right now, I would say, is due to the country I was born in. I'm gonna expand on that in a little bit. A lot of people through the world just could not have done what I did purely because of the country that I was born in. One example of this that blew my mind is my girlfriend and I come from very similar backgrounds, right? We both went to university. We both were engineers. We both lived with our parents. We were both diligent with money, right? We did the exact same things, but the big difference? I was from America and she wasn't. And because of that, I literally had like 10 times the amount of money that she does. That's nothing I did. That's just the luck of me being born in a country.
I take that point, but I think that you got to also consider the cost of living. Here in America, I expect $250,000 to $350,000 a year as a base salary. I don't need that if I go to another country. I'm fine with like 50 if I go somewhere else and I don't have to live here. If I can go and live and my rent is like 500, let's say 1,000, because I wouldn't live, like, let's say it's $1,000 a month. I can get by with 60K. Especially if I'm not paying all of my money over into taxes and, all the other types of bullshit insurance that we have to have, and all this other crap that just gets taken from you right off the tip. If I didn't have to worry about that, if I didn't have to worry about outrageous grocery bills where I buy literally 8 items, none of them are extravagant. Literally a watermelon. I'll go get the watermelon if you want to see it, a little baby personal watermelon. It's sitting over there. I was eating it. And then I was like, man, this is expensive watermelon. I'm going to save this for later. I'm over here rationing a personal watermelon because I spent $70 on a couple watermelons, 5 apples, some barbecue sauce, and 2 cases of water. Oh my gosh. And some Rainier cherries. I didn't see the price on the Rainier cherries. Honestly, if I would have saw the price, I wouldn't have gotten them, but I wasn't paying attention. I'm one of those types where I just pushed it in my basket, and they'll say what the price is. I don't even listen. I don't care. I just pay it. It wasn't until I got the receipt and I looked at it. I'm like, did I just pay $24? And I'm not joking. I'm looking at it on the receipt. Here's the receipt. I paid $24 for cherries. Now you could be saying, hell, you should have known all that other bullshit. Every time I get Rainier cherries, I would get 2 packages of them. And I have never in my life spent $24. It's $23.91. Yeah, I've never in my life spent $24 on 2 packs of cherries. Generally, I know cherries are more expensive, but expensive to me is, okay, these cherries are going to cost me about $12 or $13. Fair. But nah, for the first time, I actually put shit back last night. I got a package of blueberries, and then I looked at the price for a pint. Why are these blueberries $8? $8 for a pint. 8. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It doesn't make any sense that a meal at Chick-fil-A is cheaper than a pint of blueberries. The bitches grow out the ground for free with or without us. They're going to grow. And for whatever reason, it's $8. My gosh. Yeah. If you can work remote, yeah. Honestly, even if you can't work remote, just like, I think here's my plan. I have 9 years now, but basically it's a 10-year plan. And the goal is to make 8 figures, and I need 8 figures liquid. 8 figures liquid by the time I'm 45, and I'm done with this country. I'm out. Unless, of course, like I have a family here and I have to stay, but even then, I would move them if I did. I'm at that point now. I'm just like, fuck this place. Not because I don't want America to succeed, just that it's been made clear to me that America isn't for me. It's for the billionaire class. And, if they want it, they can have it. I understand that what makes America great is the people like you and I. That's actually what makes the country great. They don't realize it yet. So I'm happy to help them realize it.
That I was born in, right? The economic advantage I've had is massive. And that kind of leverage just does not exist in most countries. I almost feel guilty sometimes.
I've seen this video, by the way,
It can
now.
be 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
I remember watching
I'm
this
walking
now.
around. I'm looking at people doing really tough jobs, right? Construction, working in restaurants, very busy, very active things. And because I relate to Americans and I have a YouTube channel that Americans watch, my YouTube out-earns them, most likely. And to me, that's crazy to me. That's just something I don't take for granted anymore. It's not fair, but it's real. That's just the reality of the situation. The entrepreneurial culture in America is wild. And
that's for sure. That's that's actually the one thing where when I was in the Middle East at this point, where I had a realization of what an American really is, like what being American is. I think if you only live in America and you've never really been anywhere, you don't really understand what our identity is. But if you are around other cultures long enough, especially when those cultures are vastly different from your own, you'll start to pick up on these things. And that's the one, like that right there, this attitude that we can do anything. That's a very American way of viewing life. I did not realize that. And honestly, now that I do realize that, I realize how much I took that for granted as I was coming up, that we actually believe that we can do anything. Maybe y'all didn't grow up hearing this, but I grew up hearing it. Whatever you put your mind to and you're willing to put in the work, you can achieve it. So yeah, the mindset matters a lot. And obviously that's culturally reinforced as well. It's very much, the American ethos. We are very, at least in the past, and this is why I say our society is starting to crumble, because that's the thing, in my opinion, that makes us American. We look forward to the future with optimism. We think that things are only going to get better. But I'm not sure if that's still the case. And if that's no longer still the case, that's fundamental to our culture. So things can only go downhill from here.
Some of the best companies in the world they're born in America. There's just something addictive about that mindset, the innovation, the moving fast, believing anything's possible. And I'll admit,
he just said it.
That part of it. It motivates me. It's pushed me to take risks, try new things, and build stuff from nothing, which I've done.
Yeah, that right there. I'm glad that he said that too, because I came to that realization. And it was very interesting because no, I was never forced to confront being an American. And even when I'm abroad, I don't really identify as American. I identify as Texan. I'm not even gonna lie. But it wasn't until I was abroad where I started to realize, oh, this is what they mean by American. Like, okay, I understand. I guess I am American. And even what he's saying, you know, anything is possible. The fact that I'm sitting here live saying to y'all that, yo, like within 10 years, like I'm probably going to have 8 figures. That's a case in point. I don't think people in any other country will be able to get up live with confidence and say, yeah, in 10 years, I'm going to have 8 figures.
Multiple times in my life. Things just happen faster in America, and the opportunity is unmatched. So there's kind of this interesting dynamic, right? America's got this incredible economy, but it also is very, very expensive. Like the cost of living in America has gotten out of control. Housing, food, healthcare, it all adds up fast. And then maybe some people are starting to realize you can kind of play this system a little bit. So this is why a growing number of Americans are leaving America, not just to travel, but to retire, to reset, or build a more affordable life abroad. Because here's like,
so the people who are retiring, that's not as big of a deal. It is. I mean, it does have effects. Obviously, we're losing wisdom. We're losing, I guess, contribute. They don't really contribute as much to the economy, but they still spend money and all that kind of stuff. But we're losing wisdom. But the main thing is the younger people who are leaving. At a certain point, it's going to be young people who are incredibly skilled. Let's just say that right now, I can go to there. I'm not going to name the countries, but there are some countries in Southeast Asia as well as East Asia that have programs for people like me to come into their country because I'm highly skilled in a few specific things that are incredibly important to the future of growth in most countries. They have programs that they will help you immigrate to their country. Get you set up. You'll make a pretty decent amount of money. Your life will be okay. I don't think we have that here in America. Like, what is the state doing for me? What are they doing to compete for my time? Are they just expecting my loyalty from nowhere? Now, they could be doing that. Yeah, maybe they expect me to be loyal and all that kind of stuff. But my ancestors have a very tricky history with this country. So fuck loyalty. I need to be paid. Pay me. That's where I'm at. Like, fuck loyalty. Where's the loyalty when like I was poor? I didn't see anyone coming to step in. And I'm talking about the state. I'm not talking about people. I understand that people in the state are two different things. But this is something that we're going to have to contend with, is we will potentially have a brain drain. We will potentially become uncompetitive in attracting new talent to our country. And when that happens, all of the people who are bitching and moaning saying, oh, we don't want certain types of people in our country, they will find out that their incompetence is going to make their lives miserable.
like the reality. If you're earning or saving in US dollars, you can multiply your buying power overnight by changing location. You change dollars for pesos, you could be 3 to 5xing your money when you cross the border. You want to change for a different currency and live somewhere else, Southeast Asia or some of the cheaper countries in Europe, you're increasing your buying power drastically. Here's a crazy example of just how cheap stuff is. So I lived in Colombia. Obviously, it's a very cheap country, but my girlfriend and I had our favorite restaurant, right, where it's literally like a hole in the wall, like just the locals went there. It wasn't really a touristy place. Incredible food. I'm going to show a picture here, but you could get fresh squeezed juice, A big,
So that's
very, very good soup with like chicken in it and like
I had to pause it here. The fresh squeezed juice. That's one thing that I live in like because of where I shop. We have fresh squeezed juice. It's just expensive. Now, when I was a teenager, no, I wasn't a teenager. I was in my early 20s. And I remember taking my girlfriend at the time. We went down to Mexico. My favorite fruit, one of my favorite fruits, it's not my only, but one of my favorite fruits is dragon fruit. And she knows this. She knows I love dragon fruit. So we ended up going and we saw a store, like the shop, or not the shop, but a market, and they had dragon fruit. And she was like, "Hey, Will, they have dragon fruit. We should get some. It's really, really cheap." And I was like, "All right." And then when I actually paid for it, and they told me it was 10 pesos, I was just like, the fuck? I paid $5 per dragon fruit here in America. This was back then. Back then, $5 for a dragon fruit. I mean, it was $5 per pound. Now it's $5 a dragon fruit. So it's slightly different. But I paid 10 pesos for a whole dragon fruit. Let me tell you, we left out of there with like a couple bags of dragon fruit, and she had to suffer the consequences. When I eat a lot of fruit, I get a little gassy. I used to have a list with countries that have a bunch of incentives to move and work remotely there. Well, one of the countries, so I have my short list of countries. The primary is, and this sounds weird, but it's Singapore, and it's because of they have common law. That's important to me. The type of legal framework is very important. It's not too dissimilar from what we have here in America because they were a former British colony. And just like here, we retain a lot of the institutions. We did have some changes, but for the most part, they retain a lot of their institutions. English is the primary language. Food is really cheap. It's centrally located. So if I want to go to other places within Asia or even in West Asia, I'm skipping all over South Asia. But if I want to go to West Asia or Central Asia, West Asia, for what it's worth, is also known as the Middle East. For what it's worth, just FYI, that they're Asians too. So I can easily get to one of those places, or go out to Japan. I guess all of that is not too far. Japan is probably like 8.5 hours away flight. I think Dubai is around the same, maybe 10 hours or something like that. So yeah, Singapore would be my top. If I can't get citizenship there, or at least PR, I don't need citizenship, just permanent residency there. UAE would be next on the list, and as a backup to the backup would be Estonia, which is Eastern Europe.
And beans and this amazing meal. And in America, I'm like, okay, that juice would be $3. The rest of it maybe 10
First of all, no, he don't know what he's talking about. That juice would not be $3. First of all, because you can't get fresh squeezed juice here in America. I remember I did a mini summit with some of my coworkers a long time ago, and I was like, I asked what kind of juice the place had. I don't remember the restaurant, but I asked what kind of juice they had. Oh, I remember now. I don't know the name, but it was for breakfast. This was in San Francisco. I asked what kind of juice they had for breakfast. They were like, we have apple juice and orange juice. And my question was, is it freshly squeezed? And the looks on my coworkers' faces, they're like, what are you like? I became known as the one who I have these incredibly high standards. I'm just like, I'm used to drinking freshly squeezed juice. What are you talking about? But no, they didn't have freshly squeezed juice. We don't really have that here. And if you did have that, it would be $8 or $12. Something ridiculous.
$20, $30 for the whole thing. This was a $3 meal in Colombia. And if you want to go a little bit more upscale to have like a little bit fancier of a meal there, I paid about $15 for a filet mignon, one of the best I've ever had in my life. In America, you're talking about maybe $100 meal there, depending on where you're at. So that's just crazy. Like, people leave to go to these countries to have a reasonable cost of living. If you have $1 million saved, retiring in America can feel a little bit tight. But other countries, Latin America,
I'll be right
places
back.
in Europe, places in Asia, luxuriously off of $1 million. So a lot of people are leaving, and I don't blame them. And obviously, There's some controversy there, like raising prices in the area for locals. But the reality is, a lot of these countries encourage that. Like a lot of them give visas just to remote American workers because they want them to come there and spend money. So there's a lot of things going on here that I'm very interested in. If you're lucky enough to be an American and you want to live in abroad and you have this thing called a US dollar, like you have a lot of leverage that you can gain by using it wisely. So this idea of geo arbitrage is, earning in a strong currency like the dollar and going and spending in a weaker economy.
I have feelings about that now because I see what it does to the native populations. They can't compete. It's basically the same as when these stupidly rich people from other countries come here and they price out everyday Americans. It's the same. So that's something that I'm keenly aware of, which is why most of the countries that I'm willing to go to for like to immigrate, they're rich countries, relatively. I don't think that is fair for me to, like what he's saying. He's in Colombia now. Obviously, he has a Colombian girlfriend, I assume, so he's probably there for that reason. But I don't think it's fair for someone like me to go to a country like Colombia and then contribute to the problems of their own unaffordability crisis, which a lot of these other countries are going through it as well. But you won't know unless you go. So, we call it gentrification here, but it's not really technical. I guess you could call it gentrification there as well, but these are happening. Regular locals, people in these other countries are being priced out by Americans who can't afford to live here. And they're like, oh, it's so cheap down here, but it's only cheap because they're earning dollars, but the people where they're, whose places they're taking from or who they're competing with, they can only earn in pesos. If we're talking about Mexico, if we're talking about Thailand is baht, if we're talking about Japan is yen, if it's China is yuan, right? It just depends on where you are. And I don't know how I feel about it, but I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have answers.
It sounds simple, but it can be life-changing because remote work has really made this possible at a scale we've never seen before. Learning a remote skill, doing something on YouTube, doing freelancing, or even like teaching English online is what I've seen is also very common. These are borderless income streams, and they allow you to tap into American wealth without living in America. And another thing that I've noticed is a lot of people who own businesses in America are increasingly hiring people from other countries purely for the salary difference. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're running a company.
I hate to admit this, but I am also guilty of that. So I did have, people, just a few Americans, but the bulk of my team were Russian. I got a team of 7 people, like, including project manager, QA, engineers, and I think that was it. Yeah. So it was a few of them. Anyway, the blended rate that I had to pay for these people per hour was $120 an hour for 7 people. And they did the work. They got the shit done. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm like, all right, I just need to get the product out. Once we get it out, we can start selling it. Once I start making a little bit more money, I can hire Americans. But the more I thought about it, I'm just like, why would I do that? Like, let's say that, things are going well. Why would I say, you know what? I'm paying this team of 7 people it's a blended rate of $120 an hour. Or I can say, you know what? Now that I have enough money, I'm not going to use y'all anymore, even though everything y'all are doing is working out fine. Like we already know how to work together and all that kind of stuff. I'm instead going to go and pay an American $150,000 a year. And I'm not going to get any type of loyalty. I'm going to have these unreasonable demands. I'm going to have to give them, I'm just going to have to bend over backwards for them. And then I decided I'm not going to do that. And that includes if I do something again. Like if I decide that I want to use my, if I want to raid one of my accounts, I suppose, to try to make some money because I need more money now, like to build something. I'm not looking to other Americans, even if they are more skilled. I'm going to use people who live abroad. There's an excellent workforce of there's a lot of talent for the type of stuff that I do in Brazil and Estonia, in Philippines. And that's not just there. Even in the Middle East, in Africa, in Nigeria, in Rwanda, in Tunisia, Algeria, like all of these places, I don't have to be limited and constrained to here. So why should I? And then I have AI, even though AI is mostly trash, even then it's good enough. It's better than a junior level developer who don't really know anything.
You got to hire some analysts or some engineers. You could hire one lazy American for $60,000.
I love how he said it. One lazy man. I didn't want to say. I hope I didn't say that, because I didn't want to say that out loud. But he said it.
Or hire 5 really good, hardworking, educated people from Latin America or Southeast Asia for that same amount and get way more work done. It's a good salary for them. It's cheap for the American business owner. It's really a win-win for both of them. More and more companies are doing this, and this is definitely creating tension with the American worker. That's a downward pressure on their salaries. So I'm really interested in how that works out.
He's right. It does put downward pressure on American salaries. Yeah. It's a weird problem. I'm not even gonna lie. Rents are ever increasing, which implies taxes are ever increasing. For what it's worth, the value of a place is generally going to be dictated by the rents in that area. And I'm not just talking about rent for an apartment. I'm talking about rent for businesses. Most businesses, they rent the space that they operate out of. They don't own those places. So most real estate, in fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say all real estate, even the ones that you buy, their price is always dictated by the rents in the area. So you got to think about who owns all the capital, who owns all of the real estate. It's these multinational, I guess they're not multinational, like BlackRock. I don't know if they're technically multinational. They may own assets all around the world. So I guess, yeah, they are multinational. They own all these places, and the biggest reason why Americans need to make so much is because everything costs so much. But, excuse me. And even then, everything costs so much because everyone makes so much. Like at the beginning, he was saying how healthcare shouldn't bankrupt you. But if you have doctors out here earning $250,000 to $1 million a year, somebody's got to pay those salaries. Who you think it's going to be? And we got all these drug companies, and they sell their drugs here in America at top dollar. It's cheap as fuck everywhere else in the world, but here in America, we pay the full price. And the insurance companies gotta pay for these things because we demand it. So price of shit goes up. It's interesting.
In fact, I'm slowly starting to believe that the new American dream might not be living in America anymore. Like earning in dollars and spending in pesos or euros is kind of the cheat code. The arbitrage is real. And honestly, if I were one that was born in another country, even like a disadvantaged one, I'd be doing everything I can to sell something to Americans or the first world, right? You don't need to be in the US to build wealth from American demand. You just need to have the right skill set and especially strong English and a little bit of internet access, and I believe it's possible. So if you've never left a first world country, it's very easy to take it for granted. But once you've seen the world, like you've really seen it, you'll realize how much of a blessing it is to be from a country like America or a wealthier, well-off country. And if you don't recognize that, you're either naive or you just haven't traveled much. Like, yeah, America has its problems. It's got big ones. But still, there's no other country I'd rather be from. It's given me so much. It's given me opportunities, freedom, the chance to build something from nothing, and just the fact that I speak English and understand American culture, that alone makes me money. So when I hear people born in America complain endlessly about how terrible it is, I don't buy it. I've made money in too many different ways, too many different places. I can't just sit here and pretend that opportunity is not real. At the same time, though, money isn't everything.
I do want to point out that he's saying that while not living in America. I'm a big fan of putting your money where your mouth is. It's like you don't get to say to people who are living here that, oh yeah, I don't believe it's not that bad. So it's like, well, why did you leave if it's not so bad? And I caught on what he said too. He said it's a blessing to be from America. He didn't say to live here. He said to be from here, which I think is a different statement altogether. Anyway, that's that video. I shared it in the chat. Hopefully y'all can go give it a like. All right, we're gonna look at this. Instagram is evil now, or should I do something more provocative? I don't care. I'm gonna do this. I'm interested.
Follow request from
one of these videos again.
Instagram, right? The Instagram.
I can't do one of these. I didn't realize it was gonna be just that. No, the game shit. I tolerated it because he has some good points, but I don't want to watch that again.
Some want to say that we are living through a literacy crisis. You'll even see some claim that 40% of American kids can't read. That's not.
Wow, why is it so laggy? All right, let me give them a like, and then I'm gonna share this.
Everywhere you look, you will see the headlines. Kids these days don't know how to read. Literacy is on the decline, kids don't read for pleasure anymore, and some want to say that we are living through a literacy crisis. You'll even see some claim that 40% of American kids can't read. That's not true, by the way, and we're going to talk about that later in this video. Are we living through a literacy crisis, or is this just a long-standing failure dressed up as something new?
I do want to point out that I'm going through these books right now. These are my books that I am going through for the month. Actually, the other one is over there in my my ottoman. I got this one. I'm almost done with this one, actually. This Debt. I paused it to read another book, and then I read another book. And then I remember, oh yeah, I need to finish this book. So this is almost finished. I'll be done with that a couple days probably. I got this book that I'll be starting fairly soon. It's the Babylonian Low. And then this one right here. Jekyll Island. Creature built on Jekyll Island. I reread. No, not even read. Yeah, I reread 1984. I don't remember when. And then I read Brave New World, which was really good, actually. That was good. I read, honestly, Brave New World. I got through that in a couple days, 3 days. Mostly because it's, I don't know why, but I read fiction a lot faster than books that have facts in them. Because generally, if there's facts, I like to, write some notes or go do some further research while I'm reading. So it takes me a little bit longer to get through nonfiction. But yeah, you won't find me in that 40%. Yeah, I can't stand videos with gaming or something random playing. Well, you know what? I know why they do it. It's because the average attention span of most people is incredibly low. So they're doing that to kind of hijack your mind into staying around. And honestly, I might end up doing it too. So whatever. All right, let's keep going.
If you want to understand the American literacy crisis, you need to know 3 numbers. First up, 40%. That's the percentage of American 4th graders who cannot read at what's called a basic level. Every few years, students around the country take a test called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or the NAEP.
Have any of you taken that test? I don't think I've ever taken a test called the NAEP. I don't think I've ever taken a national test for anything. I've only taken Texas state tests. Back when I was in elementary school, it was called TOS, the TOS test. And then they changed it to the TAKS test. And then they changed it to TEKS, TEKS or something like that. I don't remember. And I always thought those tests were incredibly stupid. Cause I would finish them, like you got the whole day to do the test. And I would finish the entire test in like an hour. And people would be like struggling. I'm like, is it that hard? It's all multiple choice. It's not that hard. Oh man. Oh yeah, I know. They play those videos in schools now too. My gosh.
This is also sometimes called the nation's report card, and it allows us to
I've never
track
heard of this test.
educational progress throughout the country. Reading scores have remained relatively stable since 1992 until 2019, when they started to decline. Sometimes that's reported as saying that 40% of students can't read, but that's not what those statistics mean. So now 40% of fourth graders can't read at what's considered a basic level, and only 31%
What's a
can read
basic
at what's
level,
considered
then?
a proficient level. The NAEP also defines those terms.
All right, hold on. I gotta read this because I'm like, he's saying a basic level. I don't know what that means. All right, so fourth grade students performing at an AEP basic level can likely determine the relevant meaning of familiar words using context within the same sentence or paragraph. I read that as they don't know the meaning of a word, so they're just guessing what it means based off of what it seems like it could mean based on what they've read in the paragraph. Identify a specific detail to make a simple inference about the character's actions, motivations, or feelings using a single point or multiple points in the text if they are in close proximity sequence, or categorize events from the story. Okay, making a general reference to an appropriate section of text or provide some support for ideas related to the plot of characters. Find meaning or provide evidence from one of the text when making a comparison across text. So identify explicit details from the text. Okay. And then I guess proficient, determine. I shouldn't say I guess. I'm not guessing, I'm reading. Determine the meaning of words using context from multiple sections of the text. Wait a minute. So the first one is determine the relevant meaning of familiar words. So if a word is familiar, why wouldn't you know what it means? And I guess why is it? I said I guess again. Why is it saying relevant meaning versus determine the meaning? Anyway, provide a reason why a particular detail is important to the story. Identify the key events to determine the main idea. Make complex inferences about the character's actions, motivations, or feelings using relevant evidence within or across text. Describe the, okay. It doesn't seem like proficient is that much more than basic. Unless the familiar word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, right here. This familiar words. Maybe familiar is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Maybe this is just like any word. And this up here is words that maybe you've heard before. You, for whatever reason, still don't know what it means, but you see it. So you can kind of guess. Oh, and this is provide a reason for why it's important. Whereas this is just identifying something. And then make a simple inference. Okay. This is general reference to appropriate section. This is specific reference. Okay, I see the difference now. Got it.
And just because a kid can't read at basic level doesn't mean that they can't read. But the literacy crisis doesn't stop at elementary schools. And that brings us to our second number, 28%. That's the share of US adults that are at the lowest level of literacy. In the last decade, that number has increased by 9 points.
What do you mean lowest level of literacy though? What is the lowest level of literacy? One thing I do know is that the average American reads at a below 9th grade level. That's one thing I do know. Which begs the question, how did they graduate high school? How do you get past the 9th grade not being able to do things at a 9th grade level? That just blows my mind. I don't understand it. Is that the benefit of No Child Left Behind? Is we have a bunch of idiots walking around
It
with
doesn't
high
mean that
school
those adults
diplomas?
can't read, but it does mean that they are what's called functionally illiterate. This means that they lack literacy skills which would allow them to navigate the world and go about their day-to-day task. And our final number is 21. That's Mississippi's ranking in 4th grade literacy as of 2022. In 2013, Mississippi was ranked 49th. They were basically at the bottom of the country's rankings, and now they are well above the middle. And that's because they saw the problem and they actually tried to solve it. So at the end of this video, we're going to talk about what Mississippi has done right. But first, we're going to take a slightly closer look at that NAEP data. Literacy scores have been declining since 2019. This might not be that surprising because something rather big happened in 2020, which caused a lot of school closures, and we've generally seen learning loss across the board. Absenteeism is also up post-COVID, which does complicate actually teaching kids how to read. One group of student hasn't seen a decline in their test scores though. These are students who are already in the 90th percentile. So what we're seeing is a widening gap between those students who are reading quite well and those students who are struggling to read at a basic level. This tells us something important. If we want to improve American literacy, the biggest impact we can have is by focusing on those students who are struggling to read the most. And that's going to be important when we talk about Mississippi in a few minutes. But even those top performing students, like the students who would go on to study at really great colleges and universities, are also struggling. At the University of Texas here in Austin, some professors told their school newspaper that they would be shortening reading assignments and transitioning to assigning things like YouTube videos and audiobooks.
That is insane. I didn't go to UT. I actually don't have a high opinion of public state schools. And this right here is just validating and just reinforcing these negative opinions I have of these public state schools. They're why are they admitting people who can barely read? How about instead of admitting them, you reject them? They can still get to your school. They can just go through community college. Do that a couple years till they learn how to do basic ass reading and math. And then they can go to UT. It shouldn't be the case that someone who, because let's be real, some people in Texas, it's a legacy type of thing, right? Where their parents went to UT, their grandparents went to UT, and they want to go to UT. They love the football team, all that crap. So let's say that they want to go there and they want to get a good education. It's unfair to those people that they're going to get an inferior education because the majority of the student body are idiots. That's not right. I don't think that we should lower standards and make things easier so that more people can get by. I think that's the wrong approach. I was thinking Mississippi ranked 21 because everyone else just got worse. That's actually what I was thinking as well. I was thinking that as well, but that's still respectable when you think about it, because if everyone else got worse and Mississippi didn't, that's still indicative of something. So you have to give them some type of credit for that. But yeah, that's insane. Wow. Good for Mississippi though.
Instead of physical books, because students simply didn't have the patience for the reading assignments anymore. One professor was told by his students that Shakespeare's Hamlet was too long to read.
Wow.
Now, Hamlet is the longest Shakespeare play, but it is about 30,000 words. It's much shorter than the
It's also a play. It's entertainment. Wow. Here's what's crazy. I had to read Hamlet in 7th grade. In fact, I was on YouTube in the comments, and by the way, I'll be doing the comment section. I don't know when I'll do that, but it'll probably be at night. I was reading the comments of a YouTube video, and some people were talking about some books that I read when I was in 7th grade, like Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm, 1984. There's this book, I forget what it's called. It's about wolves or something. I forget. It's not actually about wolves, but it's that. The Great Gatsby. All of these great American novels, I had to read these in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And then obviously there were more. We had actual readings. I remember when I got to 10th grade, we had readings that we had to do in the summer in preparation for the class. I remember having to read like 4 books for just one of my classes, just for one, my world history course. The only book that I remember is Salt, because I'm not even gonna lie. Man, that was hard to get through. Salt. And the book was actually quite dense. This was a college course. So I started taking college courses in 9th grade. So my experience was a little bit different from the average regular student, I suppose. But before 9th grade, I was still, I wasn't taking college courses. So all those books that I just talked about, we read those in elementary school. At least my section did. We had different tracks at my school, which is good. I think I wouldn't have done well if I would have been forced to be with the regular kids. Oh my gosh. I don't think I could have did it.
Vast majority of novels out there. These professors cited things like the rise of video content, but also phone usage, as leading to a decline in their students' reading abilities. But they've decided that they have to give in and change with the times so that they can meet their students where they are. That same professor who was told that Hamlet was too long, he used to teach 10 plays per semester. He's now teaching 6 in his classes. So even college students at good schools are struggling to read, and many of them are going to become adults who hardly read at all. Many Americans simply don't read books, and I think about 10% of college graduates haven't read a book in the last year.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary to me. That is very scary to me. Do you understand the implications of that? We have this AI world in which people just accept whatever the fuck comes out of these models, coupled with people who don't read. So they're not even reading the stuff critically that's being given to them. And they don't read the literature that it's been trained on. So how do they know whether or not what they're reading is true or accurate or wasn't modified in some way? Oh my gosh, this is scary.
They don't know how to read, and maybe that's because they haven't been taught how to be a good reader. All right, let's pause for a second and ask ourselves what it means to be a good reader. The psychologist Daniel Willingham has this book called The Reading Mind, and in this book he points out that reading is actually a fairly demanding task. First, you have to be able to understand the words on the page, and that's usually what we mean when we say that we're teaching kids to read. But actually reading involves 3 additional levels of representation. You need to be able to extract ideas from sentences, you need to be able to then connect the idea across those sentences, and then you integrate this within a model in your mind that answers the question of what the text is about. And Willingham notes that many readers fail at the second level. They're not able to point out obvious contradictions in a paragraph that they read. If you're not reading at a level where you could even catch obvious contradictions, then you're going to struggle when you're reading sets of instructions or complicated forms. And really that contributes to what we called functional illiteracy before. That's that illiteracy that makes it difficult for you to navigate your day-to-day life. Being able to connect ideas is actually a skill that you have to develop. And I found that when I was teaching philosophy at some universities, that skill was something that my college students still needed to develop. I found that the worst question
I can kind of understand, because there was a point, and it wasn't a long point, but there was a point where I didn't read as many books, but to my credit, I was traveling around the world. So I didn't have any actual books. I did have my Kindle, but I don't consider like textbooks, like reference type material a book. Plus I didn't read it. I didn't really complete any books. I used Audible at that time, and if I do use Audible, I still need the book. I'm one of those where I'll read and listen to it at the same time. I prefer it. But I read a lot of documentation, a lot of online like articles, blog posts, or Wikipedia. I actually love Wikipedia. I think it's fantastic. But there's a book that I'll recommend for you, given that you just said. Given what you just said here, give me a second. Let me go pull it out of my thing here. And I used to have a full library. I might have pictures of it, but I have sold maybe 80% of my books, and what I have left is just condensed on the books that either the most meaningful to me or the books that are the most valuable to me over time. Stuff like my calculus books, or books in advanced statistics or proofs, that kind of thing. But give me a second. Let me get this book. All right. So this book right here was given to me as a gift from one of my peers at Harvard. It's called Infinite Jest. It's a national bestseller, and I don't know. I think she gave it to me because of I don't know why she gave it to me. I actually don't remember why she gave it to me. but it was after a conversation. Let's just say that despite having achieved all of these things that most people would say, oh, you're successful and all that kind of stuff, I don't feel that I'm successful in any way. And I won't get into it, but she gave it to me. I guess she thought that I should read it, and it'll be good for me to read it. But yeah, this book, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm gonna say how long it is, but it's an easy read. It's 900 and actually no, that's a lie. It's 1,066 pages, but this is where it's getting. My mindset is if you can read the full Harry Potter series, which I don't know if you have, I have several times actually. If you can read that, or the Game of Thrones books, or the what is that? The Dan Brown books, who is the Tolkien? The guy who did Lord of the Rings. If you can read all of those books, you can do this. You can do this. It's not that bad. But yeah, it's a book I would recommend. And I do have to show what I'm dead ass. Like, look, what y'all know about that Harry Potter? Yes, I still have my Harry Potter books. I should read them again. I haven't read Harry Potter since I was, in 8th grade, 9th grade? When was the last one that came out? So I read them, I started reading them when I was in 9th grade. And then because it had already been out for a while, I ended up getting all the other books and just read them within a month. Staying up till 2 a.m. reading that shit. I think you're in the Discord, maybe you're not. But I often say I don't watch TV. It's because I read. That's my version of entertainment. When I was a kid, like a kid, I used to read Goosebumps all the time. I've probably read all of the Goosebumps books up until I got to a certain age, and then aged out and started reading other stuff. But I used to love that shit. Oh man, excellent books. Let's see. Last July, my best friend passed. Had a crap job. Finally got a big raise around November. Then my dad passed. Yeah. I remember you. I remember you talking about that last year. It's actually kind of insane that it's been a year. I don't know if you know this, or if you appreciate this fact, but you mentioned that last year. I remember it. Not your dad, but your friend, obviously. I know about your dad too. That was last month, right? What month is this? June? Last month or April? I forget which one, but I think it was last month. Yeah. Goosebumps is awesome. I haven't read, honestly, I can't say they are because I haven't read Goosebumps in a long time. So I don't know if I were to read it again, would I feel the same way? Yeah.
I could possibly ask when I started a discussion of some text in the classroom was, what is this text about? Because most students could tell you what some of the sentences said, but they weren't able to form a picture of the cohesive whole. That meant that I had to guide them through interpreting a text. I would have to ask them questions like, what is the thesis of this article or this book or whatever it was that we were reading? Where are the arguments and the evidence for that thesis? And then is there any irrelevant or unnecessary information in the text? This was a process that I would guide my students through so that they could learn how to read better. But there was another barrier.
He wasn't doing that for novels because why would you ask that for a novel? That you don't need evidence. So he's obviously talking about more essay type style or research papers, because it's typically a research paper that's going to have a thesis. Sometimes an essay will too. Sometimes.
That my students faced which is that they lacked a lot of background knowledge which helped them make sense of a text. Let's say you want to read a really big book like War and Peace. Well, War and Peace is a historical novel. It is set in a particular time and place. You don't need to know all of the historical details in order to make sense of War and Peace, but having some idea of European history and maybe France's connection to Russia, knowing who people like Napoleon or Louis XVI are,
Napoleon
these are
Bonaparte.
things that would be useful for you as you're reading. It would make reading War and Peace a less demanding task. And I found that a lot of my students lacked historical knowledge or just general world knowledge, which would make reading books easier.
Oh man, gee, where would they get that world knowledge from? Where would they get history? The fun fact about history is that we write it down. Writing is a human invention that is incredibly important. If you can't read, you lose out on, I don't want to call it infinite, but I am going to call it infinite, the infinite wisdom of humankind. Maybe this is one of the reasons why we're going through what we're going through in our country is people don't read. And because they don't read and all of the people who've lived through these types of times have died, they don't recognize that we are speed walking into repeating ourselves. I often tell people to read certain books, and it baffles me how often people just ignore that. As if whatever they're doing is more important than understanding some history so that they can understand where we are in the present and some of the things that they may want to either prepare for or maybe things they can do that can try to either slow the tides or maybe reverse it. But I guess whatever they're doing is so important. I don't know. I guess they'll realize it when it slaps them in the face and they wake up one day and they're like, what happened is, well, someone tried to tell you.
I think part of this has to do with the fact that at some point we started to emphasize critical thinking over memorization of facts. You can find this a lot in popular discussions of pedagogy. The idea is that you should teach students how to think rather than what to think.
That's actually the purpose of college. That's the purpose of college. But I also think that you also need to memorize facts to a point. All right? I think you need both. I don't think that it's just how to think, because being able to think doesn't mean that you're going to accumulate knowledge, right? Like, or experience. The only way that you're going to get that is by reading what other people have done and memorizing some of those things, so that when you are presented with new facts or new information, now you are equipped to think about it in context with other information that you know, other knowledge that you have. So I think you need both, but I don't really, this is college to what to think, but I think if you would have said what to know, I think you need that too. You need to know what to know as well. And I don't think that's the same as thinking.
There's some truth to that, but I think there's a crucial error that's being made there, which is that actually learning about the world and learning facts about the world goes hand in hand with learning how to think critically, because it allows you to build a mental model of the world, and you can see where new facts might fit in or where they actually contradict things that you should already know. Critical thinking and memorization might actually go hand in hand, and they help us.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking.
Now, some experts do not want to call this a crisis. One researcher from Harvard University described American reading education as a very stable level of mediocrity. We've never done a great job, and things have been getting a little bit worse, but this isn't new, and it's certainly not unprecedented. And there is a lot of fear-mongering about this. Let me tell you about the National Literacy Institute. If you've seen those headlines I mentioned about American literacy, there's a chance that you've seen statistics from this website. For instance, you might have heard that 21% of American adults are illiterate. But actually look at the website, and I'll put a link down below as well. There's no explanation for that number, about 21% of American.
79% of U.S. adults nationwide are literate in 2024. 21% of adults in the U.S. are illiterate in 2024. 54% of adults have a literacy below a 6th grade level. 20% are below a 5th grade level. You know what? I remember taking the test when I was in 4th grade, and I was reading at a collegiate level in 4th grade. So as a fourth grader, let's say that Americans are reading at the level of a fourth grader. I was a fourth grader at one time. If they're reading at my level, then that's good. If they're reading at my level, which I was in fourth grade, I don't see anything wrong with that. I read at a fourth grade level for a long time. I guess technically I did improve, but you know what I mean. Hopefully, I'm being facetious. Low levels of literacy cost the U.S. up to $2.2 trillion per year. 34% of adults lacking literacy proficiency were born outside the U.S. Massachusetts was the state with the highest rate of child literacy. A lot of people in Massachusetts are incredibly smart, but I mean, they have a lot of really great schools in that state as well. New Mexico was the state with the lowest child literacy rate. Interesting. New Hampshire was the state with the highest percentage of adults considered literate. That makes sense. The state with the lowest adult literacy rate was California. Oh, shit. I would have never expected that. Maybe this is just a what do you call it? A superior. Like I thought California. I assumed that they would be leading in a lot of things. Now I knew I wouldn't have, man. If it would have said Texas, and I think Texas, we lead in a lot of things. I'm not saying that we want to lead in this, but I would have been less surprised if it said Texas or Louisiana or Arkansas. But California, god dang. I wonder why that is. And is this why they vote the way they vote for these laws? Maybe they don't read the law. Maybe they don't read the laws, the bills. That's it. That's why they're voting for these, for certain things. Like, let's not put people in prison who commit crimes. Maybe they didn't read the bill because they can't. It makes sense now. U.S. we rank 36th. Oh my gosh, that is pathetic. That's embarrassing. We rank 36th. That doesn't make me proud to be an American. To know that, man, 36%. Wow,
adults being illiterate. No definition is also given of what they mean by illiterate. And the numbers you find on this website are painting a much worse picture than the numbers that you find elsewhere. I actually emailed the National Literacy Institute to ask them where they got these numbers and if they could explain some of them to me, but I did not hear back. And if that changes between the time of recording and the time of posting, I will issue a correction. I'd be happy to do it. But some fact checkers reached out to the NLI in 2024, and they also never heard back. Those fact checkers concluded that the NLI was using an overly expansive definition of illiterate. They were also misdescribing the data that they were citing, and they were misleadingly describing their data as new, when in fact, this data does not come out on an annual basis. National Literacy Institute is just another name.
Wait. I'm sorry. I saw my city in here, so I gotta go back. See, it's based in Houston. It's a private company. NLPDC is based in Houston. I'm in Houston. Ah, shit. Okay. I relied on it to finish it and it didn't do it. Did I misspell it? NLPDC. NLPDC. All right. National Literacy Institute. Is it just Institute now? Oh, professional development. I don't know. Maybe they're not here anymore. But if they are here, it's over near where I grew up, kind of. I grew up down here. Well, I grew up all over Houston, but the one constant place was right here in this area. So it's just up here. This is what's the area? It's South something. I forgot the name of the area. But it's on the other side of the medical center. Medical center is over here. Interesting. Okay. Well,
when in fact, this data does not come out on an annual basis. National Literacy Institute is just another name for the National Literacy Professional Development Consortium. That's a private company that sells professional development courses for teachers. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, teachers often need more professional development as they further their careers. But the fact that they call themselves the National Literacy Institute sometimes makes it seem like they're a research center, and it gives a lot of authority to the things that they put on their website. And I've noticed that people will cite this website uncritically. I've even seen other YouTubers cite this when they talk about American literacy.
It's because they didn't read it themselves.
Were trying to mislead you. I think that they had the best intentions.
They're illiterate.
They got fooled.
They're illiterate. That's what it means.
There's no sources. There's no research methods. There's nothing like that. It's just bullet points and numbers. Where did the numbers come from? Well, the website doesn't tell you. I think anyone.
No, what he's doing, it's a rare skill these days. He's doing something called critical thinking. And a lot of people don't do it. I was reading an article yesterday. What's that yesterday? What's today? Yeah, I think that was yesterday. I was reading something yesterday. And I was asking similar questions. I was like, you know what? This is what critical thinking looks like. No, you don't just take what's being said to you on a piece of paper or digitally, wherever. You don't just accept it as truth. Like, you need to be thinking about a lot of different things. It's amazing to me that people don't do that. I think it's intellectually lazy.
Honestly, looking at this data would say that there is a real problem with literacy in America. But we have to be able to say that there's a problem without engaging in fear-mongering or simply lying about it. Fear-mongering might even give you the impression that this is a problem that can't be solved. And that's not true. Like I mentioned before, some states have started to find solutions, like Mississippi. Between 2013 and...
Oh, shit. Wow. All right, so Casual, you were saying that you thought, and I was thinking the same thing too, where every other state got worse. I think that happened. Whoa, shit. California, I guess they only had one direction to go, which is up. Yeah. But wow, look at Maryland and Delaware, Virginia, Maine, Minnesota. All of these states have something in common. I'm not going to say what it is, but if you know, you know. Vermont, Connecticut, New York, New Hampshire. All of these states have something in common. Very interesting. Missouri, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Oregon. Wow. Even the great state of Texas. How are we ranked the same as Florida? How are we at, man, shit. Florida, man, is doing better than we are. Or almost as good as we are. That's a shame. Wow. So for the most part, every state, except for a few, have decreased. And that's not a good decrease. That's a bad decrease. DC doesn't count, but no, it's in here for whatever reason.
2022, Mississippi students dramatically improved their reading scores. This was a period where most states saw a decline. This was such a dramatic improvement that some commentators started calling this the Mississippi miracle. But it's not a miracle, it's just good policy. Because one researcher from the University of Toronto found that this improvement was linked to the Literacy-Based Promotion Act, or the LBPA. The Mississippi legislature passed the LBPA in 2013, and that bill did a couple of things. It expanded access to full-day pre-K programs. It focused education on phonics and the science of reading, so it actually changed how we were teaching students how to read. It invested in professional development for teachers because they would need more training. It identified struggling readers and then targeted them for specific interventions. So if a student was falling behind, they got additional help when it came to reading. And finally, some struggling third graders were held back for a year so that they would have more time to build.
I wonder how they did that with the no child left behind act. I think that's what needs to happen. More people need to be held back. I'm not even sorry to say it. If you're too dumb to do the things that you should be able to do after the grade is ended. So let's say you're in 4th grade and you're still stupid. You need to stay in fourth grade until you know, get a little bit less stupid. It's not that hard. Like, let's be real. Like, fourth grade is not that hard. So if you can't do it, you're doing the student a disservice by just moving them forward onto the fifth grade. It's only going to compound from there.
Their reading skills. The simple description, though, is that the LBPA took literacy seriously. It gave teachers the training they needed, it focused on struggling readers, and it gave kids time to learn how to read properly. So the LBPA had a very strong impact on those students at the bottom. It helped bring a lot of students from that below basic category to basic, and also students from basic to proficient. It had almost no impact on students who were already proficient, maybe moving them to the advanced category. But that's to be expected given the kind of interventions that were in the bill. What Mississippi demonstrated is that the decline in American literacy isn't inevitable. We can solve this problem, and it actually only cost Mississippi $15 million. That sounds like a really big number, but the state's budget is $7.6 billion, so we are talking about fractions here. This doesn't solve every problem. There are still adults in the United States who are functionally illiterate. There are plenty of adults who can read but simply choose not to, and we still need to figure out what to do about college students who can't keep up with assigned reading anymore. But
I'm going to take this to a logical conclusion, and I know it's selfish of me to say this, but it seems as if I will benefit from this in the future. Yes, I know we have AI, but not a lot of people actually know how to build AI. I can build it from scratch. I can read, critically think. I have very deep experience across 3 different types of careers. I've done a lot of different things. Hell, my 40s, man, as they say, is a man's 40s is their most productive years. I'm looking forward to my 40s. Man, I'm gonna become an explorer.
Mississippi's success shows that the literacy crisis can be mitigated. We can help more people learn to read if we're smart about it. Before we go, let me ask you one question.
No. Tell me to let you do something. All right. What else do we got there? Okay, so technology is ruining children. I think I read this, or not read it. Did I watch this with y'all?
Oh, right. This came from a teacher who decided she had some things to say.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if I watched it, but I'm gonna watch it again. It's fine. Okay, so this next video, Abba and Preach. I'm a big fan of them, actually. They're like a mainstay to me at this point. I value their opinion, so let's see what they have to say.
Oh, right. This came from a teacher who decided she had some things to say.
The last few weeks, I have been recording some rants during my planning period. I'm in a classroom right now. Go Bulldogs. And this will not be my classroom after Friday. I am actually leaving the profession. I am quitting. Well, actually, I did quit, but Friday is my last day. I think we have a month left of school after that, and I will not be the teacher in this classroom. There is one issue I really want to talk about as an educator who is leaving, that I feel like a lot of people have tried to address, but school boards and superintendents and people who actually can make this true difference in their school districts aren't listening. What I really want to talk about is how technology is ruining education. So in my county, every student in the county, I believe from 6th grade through 12th grade, gets their own district or county distributed iPad.
Is that a thing?
That's the first time I heard such a thing. But I believe what you said.
It used to be Chromebooks for a while. We didn't get laptops when I was in school. It would have been dope. It would have been cool, but I had access to all this kind of stuff anyway, so it's fine. I also had access to computers since, well, in my personal life, I had access to all that because of reasons. But was in school, I had access to computers in 4th grade. That's the first time that I remember interacting with a computer at a school. And fun fact, those were Apple computers. I think I've kind of hinted at that. I've been using, like, it's now called Mac. They weren't called Macs back then, but I've been using Apple operating systems since I was a child. 'Cause I remember some people ask me, how do I know certain things about this operating system? It's so many things that's changed. Honestly, it's gotten so much worse. But a lot of the things carried over from Mac OS 9. I bet y'all didn't even know there was a Mac OS 9. As well as well, a lot of that came from Next, the operating system. In fact, to this day, a lot of the libraries, they still reference Next, which is the company, the software company that Jobs built.
I believe that.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I
never heard about that shit.
That's crazy.
But if
That sounds like a horrible idea.
But if you're telling me, because I was like, oh yes, please do tell. Yeah, technology is ruining. Of course it is. If it's a county provided iPad.
I mean, to be fair to her, I think it's ruining kids irrespective whether they get iPad. But that's just an extra layer. Let's keep watching.
I thought I hated technology because kids were iPad kids growing up and they just have too much access to games and entertainment and they don't want to use technology for education. They want to use it for entertainment. And to a degree that's true. But what I am learning is more than that, in that technology.
Just want to show, this is the watermelon. One of the watermelons. I'm hungry, so I about to eat this watermelon. And I don't care, you can stereotype me. Watermelons are delicious. They come from West Asia, and they eat them all the time over there too. As well as in South Asia, as well as in Southeast Asia, East Asia, everywhere, including here.
Technology is directly contributing to the literacy decrease we are seeing in this country right now. A lot of these kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have something read out loud to them. Their attention spans are weaning because everything is high stimulation. They can just scroll, watch less than a minute. They can't sit still for very long. Something I've realized is, like, you know, on a day, I know when I was their age, I thought movie days were a treat. I loved movie days. It was a way to relax, kind of take a break. And for them, what they mean when they say they want a movie is they want a movie on in the background for the noise while they scroll on their phones, put their headphones in, look at TikTok, and maybe talk to their friends and not pay attention to anything.
That is insane.
I will say I agree with her. Growing up, movie day for us was definitely like a day off.
Yeah.
Like off of the period.
I remember when we had the slideshow days when they had those, I forget what it was called, but it was a rotary thing and it had slides in it. And they would have a tape. They would play the tape. And then, you know, every so often the teacher would press the button on the little slide thing and it would rotate. It was like a presentation video. I love those things. It wasn't until I got a little bit older where we had like VHS and they would put on the TV and like we would watch a movie, but it was always a relevant movie. It wasn't just some silly shit. It was something that you can get something from.
We were in
100%.
And for them, it's like, and I'll probably say, I don't think technology is ruining kids. It's just ruining everybody.
Yeah.
I can't watch movies. I hate watching movies. I'd rather do anything else. Unless the movies.
Yeah, I hate modern movies. I think that I want to say that, well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I have a feeling that he doesn't watch movies for the same reason that I don't watch movies. Most modern movies are trash. The writing is trash. The storytelling is trash. The acting is trash. It's a bunch of, what do you call those things? CGI is all trash. I don't want to see that shit. It was a type of projector. It wasn't the normal overhead projector. It was another kind of projector. I think you know what I'm talking about. They had those slides and you would push a button and then it'll rotate it and you would see it. It would be like a picture. I don't know what they were called. I can look it up later if y'all really want to know.
Really good and can keep my attention. Can't be bothered. I'd rather play games or do anything.
You know where I can watch movies?
Why?
Planes.
Yeah, because you have no choice.
I have no choice.
Yeah.
It's
No, you have a choice.
So that's what.
You have a choice. I've flown on a lot of planes. Hold on, let me see something right quick. Sorry for the smacking. I can't help myself. It's the only way to eat watermelon is to smack it. Dismiss. Go away. ID. Oh, it's not on here. Let me pull up a log right quick. I fly a lot. And I don't watch movies on planes. I read a book. I make sure I bring my Kindle. I'll have my iPad, so I have textbooks on iBooks and all that kind of stuff, and I'm reading books. Let's see here. We'll go to Flighty. I think I need to have some authority of how often I fly. Okay, So since I started using this app, I have taken 111 flights for a total distance of 234,000 miles, 830 miles. And this is just since I started using this app. For what it's worth, I didn't really switch to the iPhone until 2009. No, hold on, not 2009. The iPhone 9. The iPhone 9. The one before the X. I don't remember what year that came out, but that's when I switched to the iPhone, and I got the anyway. 46 airports. I'm trying to see how long. Okay, 21 days and 13 hours of total flight time since I got this app. I fly a lot. I don't watch movies on planes. Ever. I read, and I don't just read in English. I read books in other languages. I'm gonna show you one right quick that I'm currently reading through. If I can, I just started it. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a strong reader in this language, but I'm on a plane. I have nothing better to do. Bow? Why is it not on here, Chairman? All right, well, anyway, I'll pull up the other one, the other reader app that I do. Here you go. Is it gonna focus? Focus. See that? Not only am I reading shit in English, I read shit in this language. Sometimes I will read shit in French. That's what I'll do on a plane. I'll read. Or sometimes I will play a game. There's this solitaire game called Winston Solitaire. It's by far my favorite solitaire, but it's also really hard. So it helps me, like, when my eyes are strained, I'm like, I'll just play this dumbass game. Or I'll listen to an audiobook. Or sometimes I'll have podcasts if I don't forget to download the podcast. Same with Spotify, because the music isn't on your device anymore for whatever reason. So if I remember to download the stuff, then I'll listen to music. But yeah, I don't watch the movies at all. And if there's a person next to me, which normally I fly business, so it's not that big of a deal. But if I do fly domestic and I'm in coach, if there's a person next to me watching the movie, I'm like, I will look away. I'll tune the shit out, or I'll pull out my laptop, because as soon as I pull out a laptop, I don't know why, it just takes all of my focus. I don't know why. That's kind of how I shelter myself, if that makes sense. I retreat into my laptop because I can get work done. I can do stuff. Anyway.
I can watch movies. Cinemas, although it's been a while I haven't been in the cinema, I can watch movies. At home, very hard.
Yeah, it makes me think of weed. Like, weed for adults is one thing. Weed for kids in their development is horrible.
Yeah,
just is. That's like scientifically backed up.
Wait, is he talking about? Did he say read or weed? Oh, what did you say?
Yeah, this makes me think of weed. Like, weed for adults is one thing. Weed for kids in their development is horrible.
Yeah,
just is. That's like scientifically backed up. Fine, great. So why? We bar the kids from having it. Do kids still get it? Sure. But it's not good for them. And there's reasons to bar. I think technology operates the same way, if not much worse. It's highly addictive, much more present, much more geared towards getting them.
It's also designed for it. They employ psychologists, experts to come in and make these apps so that you have a dopamine response, so they get you addicted, so they can extract profits. They need your eyeballs so they can sell you ads.
Hooked on it. Weed doesn't have that same thing. So for me,
have you seen videos of kids throwing tantrums
because you? Yeah.
Yo, scary.
Yeah, but I mean,
by Exorcist.
The parents let them get addicted to it, and afterwards they got these addicts, and now they're having withdrawal symptoms. Yeah. It's like, listen, I watched how my niece is, and she's like 2 or 3, and I watched her how she is when she watches like Barney, and then she moved on to Baby Shark. I'm learning all these shows I never even existed, and I see how she's hooked for it. And like, you realize there's like
Man, I had a Baby Shark phase. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, I had a baby shark face with my niece.
Emotional attachment to this entertainment. It's like part of their feedback loop in their brain. It's very deep. So of course, when you take it away from them, they start having a tantrum. You have to almost untrain them from thinking that's acceptable to do. So with these kids, you've let them get fucking hooked on this drug for 10, 12 years. By the time they hit 13, 14, you try to take that shit away from them, they're like, you might as well take in their whole world. It's the way that they learn about stuff. It's the way they socialize with their friends. It's how they basically get their entertainment. It's what keeps them going when the parents don't want to spend time with them. Because a lot of times parents give their kids technology because they don't.
It's a break.
It's a break for them. And like, I get it. Sometimes you need it. You can't be looking at your kid while you're cooking all the time. I understand. But some parents overdo it. And then the kids, because they've been overdone on the thing, end up being fucked up as a result. 100%. So it doesn't surprise me what she described. But yeah, these kids, when she said these kids can't watch movies, I'm gonna tell you, adults can't watch movies either.
That's correct.
A lot of them, their attention span has shot down completely. And some of you watching right now, you know I'm talking about you.
Some of y'all watching us as a background noise. Rude.
Some of y'all watching us while you scrolling other shit. You probably
You know what's meta? I'm eating watermelon, but you know what's meta is that I have had people tell me that they'll have my stream on in the background and they're just doing other shit. That's kind of meta because that could be someone watching right now. I'm just on in the background and they're talking about people who just have shit on in the background and don't actively listen. It's dangerous. I don't want to live in that kind of world, which is why I think I'm going to move from America, because I know it's not the world, it's just our world here in America. I'm going to leave.
Reddit while you have this in the background.
Rude.
Yay. Yeah. Are you looking right now? You better be looking. That's only for the people who watch.
That was fucking rude.
Whenever I do have a movie day, I can count on one hand the amount of students in all 3 classes that I teach throughout the day who maybe actually pay attention to the movie. It's frustrating and it's disheartening because if I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes, they throw tantrums. I'm talking about high schoolers. I teach 10th grade now. They get...
God damn.
And why we have the right to vote, why this stuff is important. And I just don't think these kids even care. They don't care about making a difference in the world. They don't care about how to have a resume. They don't care how to write a resume.
I'm going to play a devil's advocate. Why should they care? They aren't going to make a difference in the world. At least not in America. It's not set up for them to make a difference. In a sense, these kids could be smarter than people like me when I was growing up, because I believed that I can make a difference in the world. And I think that it's nothing worse to grow up thinking that you can do something and believing in this fact and then being slapped in the face by reality. And it's like, nah, shut up. You're not changing shit. Maybe they are actually ahead of where I am. It took me until my mid-20s, like mid-late 20s, early 30s to accept that. So in a sense, maybe today's kids are much further ahead. They're just being realistic. And I can't blame them. Maybe society should reward people who go above and beyond, who are smart. It seems like it does the opposite though. So can't blame them.
I don't care how to write a cover letter because ChatGPT will just do it for them. And I think that we need to cut off technology from these kids, probably until they go to college. Call me old-fashioned. I will be old-fashioned, but...
In Quebec, starting next September, it is now banned for kids to use their cell phone at school.
Why do you need a cell phone in school, though?
They're doing that here. And I don't disagree. I don't disagree because we're losing them. We're losing them.
I disagree, but for a different reason.
Go ahead.
I think it doesn't go far enough. I hear what this lady's saying, and I think it definitely is a real issue. I just don't think whatever solution that people are proposing now goes far enough. It needs to be banned outright. Maybe I sound crazy. Maybe I'm old-fashioned.
No.
Genuinely, I just don't know how you guys know this rots adult brains, and you think it's like okay for it to rot kids' brain. I can't understand how you guys think that's acceptable. I'll never understand. Ban it for all of them.
I agree.
But I think it literally makes zero difference whether or not you ban that shit at school. Doesn't matter.
They protest.
If they can just go home and use it right afterwards, none of this shit matters. Because the same effect that it's going to have on their brain in terms of melting it is going to happen. They're going to get the weekend. It's going to melt them more. They're going to have their little lunch breaks. It's going to melt them more.
Yeah, but they're not allowed at school.
Okay, so maybe it's not the lunch breaks. After school, weekends, it's going to melt their brain. It don't matter.
Or it's going to be less usage.
That's not going to make any dent because almost all the time where they're going to spend time talking about stuff, the TikTok videos that they saw, their dopamine system is already going to be built in. So they're already going to be hooked on that shit. It's over. Like if you give a kid a cell phone for 5 hours a day, you've already done enough damage. That's like saying, oh, you can't smoke on campus, so it's going to be fine. No, the motherfucker just goes home and just smokes 3 times. It don't change nothing. I get it. I'm not saying what they're doing is not necessarily, I think it's a drop in the bucket. That's what I really feel like. I think it's a good first step, but if parents and schools are not in unison in terms of making this change, none of it matters. Because these kids are always going to get, what do you don't think? I can't wait to go home to be on TikTok. Why? Because TikTok is always going to be cooler than school. They're always going to go on and see their latest video and they're going to text their friends and be like, did you watch this? And that's all they're going to give a fuck about. And at the end of the day, it's like, school is one thing. Nigga, you got to go home and do homework. They're going to use AI. They're going to use ChatGPT. Nothing changes. So all the formative skills, you don't write your cover letter at school. You don't do your project at school. So none of this shit changes nothing. And she said something that was funny.
I've taken the position that if something is written with AI, without human input, I won't read it. The reason is if a human couldn't be bothered to take the time to produce their own original thoughts, then why should I take the time to read it? I have no interest in reading what the fuck AI has to say about anything. I think that this is going to actually bite them in the ass, you know, when they get older and they're like, oh, I could just chat GPT my resume and my cover letter. And they're going to realize that there are people like me who see straight through that shit. I would never hire you. I wouldn't even give you an interview. It's disrespectful in a sense. You said you've wasted my time. You're not even willing to put in the time and effort to write something, but you expect me to read it and then pay you for it? Nah, you could go sleep under a bridge for all I care. Like, nah, I'm good.
To be, she said, call me old fashioned. Girl, you are Gen Z. You grew up on technology. You was on social media every day. That shit was cooking your brain to a lesser degree, much lesser, because you didn't have the crazy algorithms that we.
I don't know if that's fair to say that she's Gen Z. She could be a millennial, like me. And yes, while no, for the first part of half of my life, we didn't have any of, like, social media didn't really exist. But even when it did begin to exist, I didn't really use it or engage with it that much. You know, I had a MySpace account. Did I actually go and read other people's MySpace account? No, I didn't. Never. I used it much the same way that I use social media today. I post shit on it, and that is it. But Instagram, that's mostly what I do. I make my post, and you know, sometimes my friends are sending me shit and I'll just share it somewhere else. But for the most part, I post to Instagram. Same with YouTube. YouTube is the only thing, but it's technically not social media, but that's the only thing where I will actually engage with it beyond just posting content to it. And if you're in my Discord, maybe y'all have gotten that sense where I don't seem to be very interested in much else other than the things that I'm doing. That's been a constant. And I grew up with, well, like I said, the second half of my life. You know, I had access to all these things. I just didn't use it. And I work in tech. So that it should also be said that, or understood that I spent a lot of time on the internet. That's the one thing that I will say. When I was growing up, especially after cable internet became a thing, I was always on the internet, like always surfing. Back then we surfed the web. I was on all kinds of forums, learning all kinds of random ass shit, looking at motorcycles, like all kinds of crap. I don't think it's fair to say that she's Gen Z. And even if she is Gen Z, that doesn't mean that she was brought up in that type of environment. I know some folks who don't use social media at all. So, yeah, you can't say that just because she's Gen Z that she was on it.
Got now, but unless you're millennial or above, you don't know.
You were not on Bro, but you were sizzling.
Yeah, because we couldn't even do this goofy ass shit. We couldn't. Because
Yeah.
we had the phone that you had to slide, and that was at the
I had that phone. I had this phone. Oh man, I love this phone too. This wasn't my first phone. I think this was like my third or fourth phone that I had. I think my first phone was that. It was, gosh, I don't remember what it was actually. I'm not even gonna try to remember. But I remember having this phone where if you wanted to text message, it was that T9 type where if you wanted to get to the letter B, you would press 2 twice. So I got real fast at doing that, and I got to the point where I was able to write my messages without looking at the keyboard. And to this day, it's useful because sometimes you got to use T9 type.
high school.
No, that was great. Don't you miss hanging up with a motherfucker like that?
Yeah, snap. Yeah, you snap it. You snap it. That's what. Oh man. So I never had a flip phone. I only had that. So I love being able to just close it to hang up. Oh my gosh. But back then we actually used to talk to one another on the phone. It wasn't what people do now.
Hey, bring that shit back.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Yeah, it felt
Niggas used to
different.
be the ballers if they had a BlackBerry. Remember that 2-year span?
Oh no, me, I'm from the whole time. You know what I mean?
You talking about the pagers?
You was a
I never had a BlackBerry. I did the Dash, the Sidekick, and the N95. I think it was the Inspire. I had an Inspire.
baller if you had a StarTAC, Motorola StarTAC.
Okay,
God
okay,
damn.
okay.
And then after that, you was a baller if you had the Razor from Motorola.
I never had the Razor, but I'm gonna disagree. You wasn't a baller unless you had the car phone in your Mercedes S-Class. Just saying. Now I didn't have it, but my father, that's what I grew up around. So I was around cell phones from when I was 3. Because in the S-Class there was a car phone in there. So.
God damn. And after that, it was the Blackberries. You was and then the Sidekick. The Sidekick.
Yeah, the
one that you
Sidekick.
slid.
Bro,
Yeah.
you want to know how different things were? They had to put in, because they talk about banning stuff at school now.
Yeah.
We didn't really have that until the Game Boy came out. Then they banned that shit.
Yup.
Because all these new Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red.
They didn't ban Game Boy for me. I remember playing Game Boy DS in my AP World History course. I'm on time. I'm a very punctual person, and a lot of my other friends are too. And one of my friends, my good friends, Adine, or Aiden, however you want to call it, he got one too, the Nintendo DS, and we used to play that Metroid Prime in class before class started, and we you have 6 or 7 minutes to get to class. So if you get there extra early, class doesn't really start until 10 minutes, after you arrive into the thing. So we'll play that a little bit and then get to work. And I'm not saying this class was actually one of my harder classes. Actually, no. My hardest class in high school, and y'all will not believe it, it was my art history class. Holy shit. Why? Man, that was a difficult class for me. Oh my gosh. I didn't do well in that class either. I got a C. That fucked up my GPA. That really fucked up my GPA. That was the one C that I got. I got 2 C's in my entire high school career, but one of them was art history. Oh my gosh. Oh man, that was hard. It was, even to this day, I'm scarred. I remember at Trinity, my undergrad college that I went to, I avoided anything to do with art, bro. Man, that shit scarred me. I'm like, I am not doing anything that's gonna fuck up my GPA again. Fuck that. I still graduated in the, I was top 5%, but I felt a certain kind of way because I could have been in the top 20. The top 20. I graduated, we had, I think, 1,200 plus students in my class. So I felt the kind of way where I'm just like, man, I'm not in the top 25. I was pissed off. All because of that dumbass art history. It wasn't all because of that. Obviously, there was one other course that I got to see in, but a lot of it had to do with that art history class. Fuck that class.
All that shit. And then once that got banned off my school, then I think it was late on. This is how So Windows 95 came out.
Yes.
Okay. And you want to understand, there used to be a time in life where you used to have something called a floppy disk. Okay.
It wasn't that floppy disk when Windows 95 came out. It was the other floppy disk. He's talking about the 3.5-inch floppy disk. There were the 5.25-inch floppy disks. Those were the ones that came out right before Windows 95. Just saying. I remember those. I remember the switch to Windows 98. Yeah. Windows 2000. And then what was that other one? It wasn't XP. It was the one that came Windows Me. That bullshit. Who remembers Windows Me? Y'all remember that? Probably not.
So we used to have one floppy disk.
A 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. He's talking about, it wasn't a 3.5. It was 5.25.
We would go learn a couple little computer things. But on that floppy disk.
Oh, yeah, he's making the sound.
Counter-Strike. Now, if you've never played Counter-Strike on.
Bruh, Counter-Strike. Oh, all right. So here's a fun fact. I was on the debate team, and as part of being on the debate team, I had the debate. Like I was in debate 1 and 2 AP courses. During our lunch, because I think my debate was right around lunch. All of the debate team, we would just be in our room during lunchtime playing Counter-Strike. That was the one time that I really got into like first-person shooters and multiplayer games. And obviously the technology part of it was the thing that drew me in. So creating our own LANs and all that kind of stuff. We would have full-on LAN parties, bro, and debate. But it was also after school, you know, we had practice and all that kind of shit. So we were there a lot. So it was a way to kind of deload. So I would either be doing that, or because it was right next to the gym, I would be in the basketball, with the basketball team as well. You know, going back and forth. That was fun. Sometimes, you know, I'll be with my debate nerds, and then other times I'll be playing with the varsity team because they practice during lunch hours too. Generally, I think all of the electives for that type of stuff or competitive type things, I think they were all around lunchtime, and we had 3 different lunch times, so it made it to where you had longer. It was a longer period. But yeah, I ended up I did a lot of stuff with the basketball team because I used to play, but I had to stop. I had to give up certain things. Right, like I was in band, I couldn't do band and play at the same time, obviously, you know. So I had to give up one, and then the debate stuff that took up a lot of time, as well as the computer club. Yes, I was in the computer science club. I was one of them. So I was just like, yeah, I had to take a step back from the sports. However, I still hooped, you know. So all my friends were on the basketball team, so I'm like, yeah, I'm about to go hoop. That was always fun.
LAN, which is when you play with all the other computers.
Technically, MS-DOS still exists.
We used to have a computer teacher. This is we're gonna reminisce.
Yeah.
So we used to have a computer teacher. He didn't know what the fuck he was talking about.
Yes.
The little niggas knew more than him.
Of course.
But he taught the class. So the way it works is, so there was like an island in the middle of the room. So it had like computers like on the island, and then there was also computers facing the walls.
Yes.
Okay. So imagine there's an island in the middle of the room.
He is
with a bunch of
describing
computers like this.
He's describing my computer lab when I was in 4th grade as well as 7th and 8th grade, because those were the two computer labs that were in that way. Whereas you have a center aisle and they're all facing out, and it's a circle, and then you have the outside walls, and it's all around. And they're facing towards the inner aisles. And yeah, my computer teacher, she was pretty cool. We learned applications. I was on the school newspaper for what it's worth as well. So that should give you. I've had a long history of reading and writing. You know, speaking of literacy and all that, I was on the school newspaper, so I learned how to use Apple Pages and Microsoft Word, the presentation software. It was stuff like that. It was more applications. It wasn't how do you actually do anything useful. Never mind. I shouldn't say that. Those are useful things, but for me, I'm redefining useful as building like programs, because that's what I do now.
There's also computers all on the exterior, so he would walk around like this. So when we would play Counter-Strike, the moment
he was playing in a computer class,
and they would go to Counter-Strike. Then he would make the round, and you could play all the way he came back. And then once he came back, all tap. So some niggas would shoot you while you're just standing there because he's standing behind you. He would catch us all the time because guys, you know, we can't stop ourselves from playing. But that's how,
Because your brain was fried.
and this was only for 1 hour. We would get a chance to play a little bit,
Yep.
and that would be a week. Because if I'm not sick, the computer
That was a
class
week.
was once a week at most. So that
once-
was
So my third computer, and it's my computer science class. So I started doing computer science at my sophomore year. So I did AP computer science all throughout, sophomore through high school or senior. However, I can't even think. We had a lab. We had 2 labs for CS. We had CS1, and then we had like advanced, and then we had another one after that. And one of the things that we got in trouble, we got told we can't do it, but we did it anyway. Like during class while the teacher was lecturing or whatever, if somebody was on their computer doing something, sometimes I would send a command to restart the computer. You're not supposed to do it. I think if you did that shit today, you'd probably get expelled or go to jail or something stupid. But yeah, back then I'm like, oh, these are all on the network. I can do shit. So only the really, really good students, we knew enough to be able to just cause mischief. So that was one of my favorite pranks to do, was to just shut down someone's computer. And I'm like, I hope they saved, because back then things didn't just automatically save. So you could have had your computer shut down in the middle of your work. And I got in the habit of always like saving my work, because I wasn't the only one able to do this. There were 2 other students. And honestly, those 2 other students, in my opinion, are superior to me in every way. One of them, he ended up going to MIT. And then the other one went to Cal Polytechnic, wherever that is in like south of LA or something like that. But yeah, that was fun.
Once every 9 days.
And let me tell you, just that made us really into video games at that time.
Yeah.
But while we were at school, we did other shit. We would play marbles outside. We would play fucking basketball, all this stuff. We would get excited for movie day.
We would touch grass.
Yeah, we would touch grass. We looked forward to it.
Yeah.
These kids is like,
It's just that.
yeah. So it's just,
Man, he's talking about Dyson, bro. I had the yo-yos. What y'all know about yo-yos? I had the Cold Fusion GT. I had the Butterfly. Yep, man, I had all the yo-yos. So I was doing all the tricks. Used to play the Pokemon card game, the actual cards. I used to have Pokemon until one day, the police officer at my middle school. Yes, we had police officers at my middle school because of where it was. He stole my shit, all of my cards. Talking about that they're demonic. I'm like, the fuck? Sometimes I think about it. I'm like, man, I wish I knew where he lives so I can just go drive by in a car that's worth more than his house and be like, fuck you, homie.
it's such a, like, we dealt with a similar problem, but the scale is so different. It might as well be a different category. It doesn't even make, it's like the difference between talking about this and a fucking machine gun. Mm-hmm. Are they both physical contact? Sure, but bitch, they don't mean the same thing.
No.
The implications are different.
Absolutely.
So what these kids are dealing with, the scale of this, the way it's changing their brain waves, like,
They don't know.
we
When
need
they're
a
gonna know-
comprehensive thing where all of society says no.
When they're gonna know, it's gonna be too late.
I think personally it should be illegal for these kids to have these things.
It's already too late.
I think so.
It's already too
and
late.
people want to argue with me, but it's literally rotting their brains. And I know this because it's rotting adult brains.
100%.
So if we know that, why the fuck are we letting kids do that? How many times do I go online and hear, and you guys know you're watching, how many of y'all are doom scrolled for 4 or 5 hours when you're supposed to be asleep and you got work the next day?
I think it's gonna come to that. That's why, as a matter of fact, that's why I close my PlayStation when summer comes. Yo,
I don't sleep in my room with my phone. My doom scrolling is technically flipping pages. So I have a book on my headboard. There's always a book on my headboard. So if I really feel the need, I'll read that. And if I still can't sleep, there's always this computer. I had to get out of bed. My laptop, which you don't see right now, you won't see this right here, my laptop right there. That never goes into my room. The only place that I'm willing to work on my laptop is right there on this desk, over there on the couch, or outside on my balcony, or if I leave the house. That's actually the purpose of my laptop. Sometimes I'll work over here in my my kitchen area. But yeah, I don't do the whole technology in my bedroom. Same thing with my iPad. No. There are no electronic devices in my bedroom. There's no TV. No, that's a lie. I have a speaker. But other than that, there's no technology, you know, like, other than my fans, my smart fans, you know, my HEPA filtered fan, no technology in there. And that has been the case since, hell, basically since I moved into this particular unit. I don't remember how many years I've been in this unit, but it's been at least 3. Oh, it's 2025. No, I've been here for 4 years in this unit. And my other unit, I was in there for 4 years. And even then, like, I never really did much of the phone stuff in my room, but I didn't have a rule. Like, that right now, this is a rule. No electronics in my bedroom, ever. What's up, Cruz? How you doing? Yeah, same. Like, what do you need a TV in your bedroom for? I know one of my friends, my neighbors, he has a TV in his bedroom. I'm like, what the hell do you need a TV in your bedroom for? Why you have 3 TVs? It's one of you. And you have 3 TVs. One in the living room, one in the bedroom, and then a front projector. And the like one of those ultra short throw projectors in the other bedroom. I'm like, what? He don't even watch the other. I'm like, why do you have all these TVs, bro? So I guess some people use it for technology. I don't know. Or just for decoration. I mean, that's part of the reason why I bought my TV over there. I'm not even going to lie. When I moved from America, I sold my TV, or maybe I gave it to him. I don't know. I think I sold it to one of my cousins. And yeah, to one of my cousins and her husband. And they got a really good price for it. I'm not even going to lie. I gave it to them for like $500. This was an OLED TV, 65 inch. I think when I bought it, it was $4,500. I'm just like, I just don't want to move it. Just come take it. Like $500 and leave me alone. So when I came back to America and I had my TV stand over there, I'm just like, all right, well, if anybody wants to come visit or whatever, because sometimes I have people who come visit or stay over for a few days. So I'm like, all right, I'll get a TV for that, for decoration mostly. But yeah, I don't really do the TV in my room. That's silly.
Could play all night. In winter, doesn't really matter, you know. But I'm gonna skip my days of touching grass while there's actually grass outside. No, I have to shut it out. I gotta be an adult and be like, you know what? Yeah, let's enjoy summer.
Yeah, that's my take.
This is how I am with certain things. I like riding my motorcycle. So let's say, for instance, I go to California, and you know, my friends in California, like all the tech people, they like to do all kinds of dumb shit, like, you know, hopefully I don't have to spell it out, but it's legal in California. During certain times of the year, it's a hard pass for me. I'm like, nah, I'm good, because I know that I'm going home and I want to ride my bike. That's more important to me. But if it's wintertime, I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's cold outside. Can you make it to Cali in a day? No. You know how far California is? It's like an 18.5-hour drive. And that's assuming you don't hit any traffic in any of the 3 major cities you're gonna have to pass through in Texas, or the 1 major city you're gonna have to pass through in Arizona. So nah. Even when I did go to California by car, I didn't drive from Houston. I took the train from Houston to El Paso, and then we rented a car from El Paso, and we drove to Phoenix, and we ended up staying in Phoenix. And even that drive was long. I'm like, yeah, I can't do all this. Yeah, we ended up staying in Phoenix, and then went up to LA for a few days, and then to Vegas, and then back down to Flagstaff, Phoenix, and then drove back to El Paso, and then took a plane. There's no way I'm doing a motorcycle. For one, I don't know if my tires would last that long. not even gonna lie. I don't know. That's dangerous. Nah. I had to stop every 100 miles at a gas station. And there are parts of Texas where you're not going to see a gas station for a long while, a very long while. Too dangerous.
What do y'all think? Why y'all agree, disagree? I know some parents say some goofy shit.
I'm not watching it.
How do my kid contact me?
They don't need to contact you all the time.
Yeah, that's my take. It's just like, we managed to get here without phones. I'm here. I didn't have a phone most of my life. Yet, for whatever reason, I'm still here. So I think that means that I don't need a phone. My mom is here. They didn't even have this shit when she was a kid. Somehow she managed to live to old age. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, none of them have phones. It is stupid when I hear people say that. Yeah, as far as UFC, I don't really watch TV. I'm like, why would I watch them when I could do something better with my time? Like, work on something, which is probably what I'm going to do. I need to get some work done after
I don't need
this.
to contact you all the time.
They get on the fucking bus and go home.
That's pretty much it.
What if there's an emergency? They go to the school and say, call my mom or my dad. They should have a record of it.
That's it.
We grew up without needing it. Why do your kids need it? So no, I disagree.
It's because they're helicopter parents. They think that they're making their kids' lives more safe without realizing that what they're doing is handicapping them for the future. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't give a fuck about your kids. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I'm just being real. I don't care how they feel, or when they get out into the actual world where people got their own problems and their own shit to deal with. You're not going to coddle your children, but what you're doing is it's like you're putting them in this weird situation where they're not going to be able to handle reality, which is no one gives a shit about them and you need to be productive, or you can be homeless. And guess what? I mean, unless you got a nice family who has the money to take care of you, no one's going to give a shit about you. I see so many homeless people outside every day. I don't really see people caring. And I can't blame them. I don't know if I care. Other than, I'm just like, why are they homeless over here? Go somewhere else. That's the only way I care. Is like, why are you here? Go be homeless over there. On the other side, not over here. I was a Harvard grad in Goldman PM. Now I'm unemployed in the woods. How did I get here? Well, I'm unemployed. I'm not in the woods yet, but I've been thinking about going into the woods. Maybe I'll do that soon.
A year ago, I got laid off. I started job hunting, but pretty quickly I realized that another job wasn't going to get me the life I actually wanted. I'd done the traditional path. I went to Harvard, I worked at Goldman Sachs, I'd even joined a unicorn startup. But the more I thought about what actually mattered to me, I realized it was freedom and time with people.
That's what I realized too. I value my freedom more than anything. And I also understand that freedom is not free. And I think I catch some people off guard, especially my former managers, because they'll ask me, like, what do you want to do in your career? What do you see? I'm just like, I'm not career focused. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. And that sometimes I catch people off guard because they're just like, wait, why don't you care about your career? I'm like, for what? I've already accomplished it that you're still over here trying to accomplish and realize that it's empty. So I'm just here because I'm forced to be here because I have to pay rent and I don't want to use my own money to pay it, so I'm gonna use yours. So I understand what she's saying. And given what she just said, I can tell that she's made a lot of money, because that's not something that I've ever heard from people who, more week to week, as you would say.
That I cared about. If you're at a crossroads trying to decide what to do next, then this one's for you. I'll show you what it's like to get everything.
Yeah, she worked at Goldman Sachs too, so she's probably getting six-figure bonuses and shit too.
Hi, I'm Yukes. I'm a baby YouTuber, and this is the story of my first adult gap year. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how exactly I'd get there. I've always been really practical. As a kid, I liked drawing and writing, but I always knew that the best way to keep doing those things was to get a job and fund those hobbies on the side. A lot of my Harvard classmates ended up at places like Goldman. One summer, I was interning near the Goldman office, and I came out and ran into some of my college classmates. They were interning there, and when I approached, they closed ranks. It wasn't like I was talking to 4 individuals anymore. It was like I was talking to a single unit that didn't really want to talk back to me. If you've ever wanted something just because it felt exclusive, you might relate. It wasn't just about belonging. It was about getting into a place where I felt like an outsider, a secret place, if you know, you know kind of energy. And I wanted that. I wanted to be an insider too. Once I got to Goldman though, I realized that nobody there actually cares. if you're at Goldman Sachs. If you weren't cool before the Goldman name, you won't be cool after either.
She was trying to do it to get, oh, okay. I've noticed that about certain people. They try to get into these, I'm using air quotes because I don't value them. These top name brand companies like Google or Facebook, like all these, I don't have much respect for them. I'm just like no one gives a shit, bro. But it's normally the kids who, I mean, let's be real, like nobody really looked at them as if they were those ones, you know? They're like the nerds. And I understand it because I was with the nerds, I was with the athletes, and I'm not gonna lie, like some of the things, man, we would have these chop sessions. I don't even know how this would happen because I am one of those nerd geek people. But for whatever reason, no one ever treated me as if I was one of those types of people. So I know how they are viewed by most people, including, you know, a lot of the girls. They would they change when they get out of college, but when they're in high school, they're not looking at them. They're looking at the other people. If you know, you know.
Years on the job felt like any other job. You're learning. But the third year, I got a promotion, an early promotion, and a bonus. A bonus that was worth my full analyst salary. I was shocked.
Yeah, 6-figure bonuses. That's normal. That's normal.
I felt a bit weird about it because I was being paid so much, but I didn't feel the way I thought I would feel. I thought I would feel on top of the world.
I understand where she's coming from. I understand it. There was a point in my career where I was making about $80,000 a month. And after 2 months of it happened, I just stopped caring. It's just like, it just becomes normal. So I understand what she's saying. You know, you go in thinking that, oh man, if I can make this kind of money, things will change. And it's a wake up call when you start making that kind of money consistently. And all of those things that you thought would happen or would come to pass or fruition, it doesn't happen. And it's very interesting that a lot of people go through that. You may think I'm abnormal, but I know some other folks who I met while I was traveling abroad who were in similar situations. You know, they were doing something, they ended up making a lot of money, and everyone looks at them, they're like, oh, you're so lucky, so fortunate, and all this kind of stuff. And this is actually what brought us closer together, is because we understand what it's like. Money doesn't really bring what a lot of people think it's going to bring. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go and pursue it. I mean, obviously you can learn the lesson and still have the money. But I absolutely understand where she's coming from, where it's like, man, like, what's the point?
This is what I've been working so hard towards for the last 3 years, but I didn't. It felt like, okay, I got it. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, now what? And you know what? No one ever prepared me for that. My entire upbringing, my grandpa would always tell me to make sure I get my education. He wanted me to get a good education and apply myself. And he would say, so you can make a lot of money. And all right, sure. That's what y'all want. I'm going to do that. So it became what I wanted because that's what they wanted. So of course I want to try to make them proud. So I ended up going that route. And what no one prepared me for is once you reach that goal, all right, now what? They're like, I'm looking at a couple mil right now. I'm like, okay. Now what? Nothing changed. And I honestly, for a brief period of time, I did grow resentful. I'm just like, all these people, they told me to do all these things. And then nobody told me it'll be like a certain kind of way. Nobody told me what to expect. So I did grow a little bit resentful, but then I had to keep in mind that my grandparents came from a very different background. Like, they're poor, right? So I took it that way, where it's like, you can't tell a broke man that money won't change his life. And you can't fault people for telling you to focus on striving for wealth when they themselves have never had it. And, you know, that's just, a lot of their problems are money problems. Not with my grandfather. He was solid. But most people, a lot of their problems stem from money, or at least they think it stems from money. It's really other things. But now I know it. You know, it's wisdom that I was fortunate enough to acquire in my mid-20s. That money is not everything. There are things that are way more important than money.
And then thought, is this it? You might relate. I thought, am I supposed to keep aiming for this feeling for the rest of my career? So I realized work couldn't be my only focus. I needed to do something more out of life. I started taking creative writing classes and improv classes after work to start building an identity for myself.
Interesting. So I didn't take classes. I ended up teaching classes. I taught at one of the UT satellite campuses here in Houston. I started a couple of businesses. I was just searching for shit to do. I was just like, I don't know what the hell to do, you know? So this is also the time when I started buying more cars. I was just like, I don't know what the hell to do. Just bought another bike. You know, I had a dope bike. I had a Panigale. Gosh, which one? Was it the 959 or the 12? 'Cause I had both. I'm not sure which one I had, but I had a Panigale. No, it was a white, so it had to be the 959. So I had that, and I was just like, all right, well, I don't know. I guess I'll buy a new one. So I bought a Monster 1200R, the bike that I recently sold last year. That bike was actually very special to me. For that reason, that was the bike that I bought after I came into my my money, I suppose. So I was like, yeah. And that was also the bike that I owned the longest. And another reason why that's important to me is because it was the first time that I realized that what I had was enough. Now, I know that it sounds strange. It's like, well, why'd you get rid of it, Yanni? I'm blaming it on him.
Outside of work. You can have
It's your fault, Yanni.
5 to 9 outside of your 9 to 5 with good boundaries. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's a cushy job, but there's a balance that you have to maintain. Because every year, everyone on your team gets stacked ranked against each other, and then the bottom 5% get cut. I was hyper aware of the impact of my work and explaining that impact to others, but I also was wanting to pull back so I could focus more on my own interests. I tried to quiet quit, but the issue was I was still very tied to the work and my reputation. If you're like me and you stay late to work on something, even though you're told it's not gonna matter, you might be a builder. Someone who takes great pride in the craft of what they're doing.
Bruh, that's me. And that can be hard, especially when you work in environments that, because of, I don't know why, like the status of the job or the role has been pushed up so high, now everyone wants to do it. So there are a lot of people who are there just for the money. They're not there because they actually want to build something great or they value the craft. And that was hard for me to deal with because I'm just like, why the fuck are you here? And I have to work with these people. I have to interact with these people. It's strange to have that. Yeah, anyway, let's see what else she has to say.
Even if that work doesn't matter to stakeholders or the market,
matters to you.
You've got your own standard of excellence to uphold. And it was hard for me to turn that side of my brain off, even though I knew that the work I was doing didn't actually matter.
But it does. It always matters. Your work, and y'all can believe what you want. That's cool. You know, I'm happy with what I've accomplished, so I'm gonna go with what I believe. If you are someone who likes to build work, your work is going to be a representation of you. Your values show up in your work. And I say your values, not your value, your values. So there are certain things that, it needs to be done a certain kind of way because my name is attached to it. And I value my reputation more than whatever the hell you got going on. So I'm one of those types of people where if I'm gonna do something, and this is how I was raised, you do it right. You know, obviously there's a time where you can take shortcuts, and I did learn how to do these things when I was building my company. You know, you gotta prioritize. You can't do everything, but whatever you do, you need to do it at the best of your abilities, and probably better than that. It's this idea that you should be always improving. And sometimes, you know, some people, they could be like, oh, like you're always looking at the bad things. It's like, no, I'm looking at what I can improve, because that's how I get better. Is, all right, I did it this time this way. What can I do to make it better the next time? And over time, you see progress. I can't turn that part of me off. I mean, I kind of can, and I practice it. Honestly, this YouTube channel is practice for that. These live streams, I don't get to let the perfectionism that I sometimes have, that doesn't get to take over here. It's all live, you know. That's one of the reasons why I do it. It's live. I don't have to. It's just put it out. If people like it, great. If people don't like it, I don't care. You know, at least I did something that they didn't, which that's really what I'm about. Just doing something that most people don't do.
You make furniture, and you know that your clients don't really need the high quality that you're producing. In fact, some of them even ask you to lower your quality so that you
gotta go find someone else.
More furniture faster.
Why should I lower what I'm doing for you?
Well, you can do that for a while, but for a longer period of time, that tension between your own standard of excellence and what you're delivering, it's gonna start to eat at you. And it can just either make you feel a little dead inside because you keep ignoring that feeling, or it can make you feel like what you're doing is your level of excellence, that it actually is what you're fully capable of, and that can lead to imposter syndrome. It can be exhausting to continuously tell yourself, this work doesn't matter, it's okay to drop the quality. It started affecting how I saw myself. During the pandemic, it became even clearer because the happy hours were taken away. My hobbies and those classes that I was going to after work were taken away. So all I had left was the work that I was actually doing. Eventually, it didn't feel like I was trading time for money anymore. It felt like I was trading in a piece of myself. I realized that it's so much better when your life can be a flywheel, where what you do during work can contribute to what you do outside of work, and what you do outside of work brings something to what you do at work. I thought about moving teams, but my team had a bit of a cult mentality. This vibe of, we are the best team in the company, and every other team is either toxic or disorganized or just not as...
She says cult. I call that competition. I'm going to feel like whatever team I'm on is the best too. I don't give a fuck if it's the best or not. That's what I believe. Prove me wrong. But I guess this is what happens when you go into a field that's traditionally male. Is, you know, we're way more competitive. So I get it. Like I actually prefer that. I don't want to be in a, I mean, I do understand, you know, technically you're all the same team in the company, but if you're being stack ranked, hell nah. Nah, I'm trying to demolish these other teams. Fuck them. Especially if it's a large company and I don't know them. I don't give a shit. Like, nah, this is war. What are you talking about?
Cool as this team. So it made it hard for me to want to leave. Looking back, I tell myself to leave sooner because I tried separating myself from work. I tried that for 5 years and it just didn't work. When I started looking for another job, I needed something as impressive as Goldman. Maybe not with brand name, but something else. And that's when I found the startup that would fly me to Paris. I thought if I could find a job that fit me better, then things would improve. So I found a startup job and it gave me a lifestyle that I really liked. I got to work on a product that on the surface was really cool, exciting, and hitting the same type of users that I could really relate to. The thing is, I believed in the problem we were solving, but I didn't believe in the solution. And I couldn't fake it either. Try this. Imagine your job without the perks, without the travel, without the people. Would you still like it? Would you still do the work? For the work itself?
Yes. I no longer value travel for work. I don't really care about the people that much because I've been through enough companies to realize that for the most part, most of the people are not your friends. Now, I have been fortunate enough to where from every company that I've worked at, I retain at least one relationship with someone. I'm fortunate in that sense, but no, I don't need to meet with them. I don't need to talk with them. In fact, I don't want to talk to them. I don't even want to see them. Fuck you, pay me. That's all I care about. Like, I'm gonna do this stuff That's the relationship I have with work now. Because I had the relationship where I am very vested in the company and the product and all these things, and that isn't rewarded in any kind of way. So now that I fully understand how corporations work, and for what it's worth, startups are also corporations, I'm going to treat them with the same loyalty they treat me with, which is fuck you, pay me. Sorry, not sorry. I didn't make the rules. Y'all did. So it's like, it's at will. Okay, at will means you can fire me at any point. It also means I can quit at any point. Fuck you, pay me. That simple. While you're paying me, sure, I'm going to care about your product, and I am going to do my best to make sure that we meet whatever goals. But beyond that, unless I have significant equity share, fuck you, pay me. That's all I care about. And even if I do have significant equity share, equity is worthless until it's not. And the vast majority of cases, it's not. So again, fuck you, pay me.
I just didn't believe in what I was doing. And I almost couldn't explain it. But sometimes your body knows something isn't right before
that
your
burnout.
mind
That's probably
does.
what she's
Other than
experienced.
that, my
burnout.
lifestyle was perfect. Then the layoff came. I started applying for jobs.
Oh, she got laid off
hit a
too.
wall. One thing that became really clear to me is how our motivations change over time. What we cared about at 25 is not the same thing that we'll care about at 30. I don't want to be like, hey, I used to really want to write a novel, but now that I'm older, I don't feel the same anymore. So when I feel now that it's time to build something, I want to act on it while I'm still motivated, while I still feel this way, while I still have
I forgot to show
spark.
her video.
What helped me make this decision was knowing that nothing's certain right now anyway. I see every day there's a recession coming, more layoffs are happening, and so it made me realize if this is all going on, if nothing's certain, I might as well be building my own thing. Because having a nest egg is really helpful for giving me options when I need them. I decided to spend the first 6 months of my sabbatical spending time with friends, going on travel adventures, because it was important for me to build those memories with those friends while I was still in London, and so I could look back on that time and have all of these memory dividends. This is also the year that I decided to reconnect with my dad's side of the family in China. I hadn't seen them in over 15 years, and it was time. I felt guilty about not keeping in touch more, about how I would get overwhelmed and ghost them because I would get all these messages in Chinese that I couldn't read. But now with technology, I could translate it, and so it was easier to communicate, and I felt ready to go back. When I first started my sabbatical, I thought it would be 6 months to a year max, but I essentially spent the entire first year experiencing life. And now that I'm at the beginning of year 2, I need to focus more on actually building a life that's financially sustainable. What I tell my past self is to commit harder to the experiments that I wanted to run to find a way to fund my life, to announce it at the beginning of each month, and then follow up with the results. I didn't do that. I didn't announce at the beginning of the month and then follow up because I was afraid of not following through. And I drifted a little bit from my goals. I don't regret how I spent that time because I spent it with friends and family. Those were important things to me. That's why I'm looking to go down this path in the first place. I'm really grateful that I had enough saved that would last me more than a year because it's taken longer than I thought it would. If you're thinking about doing a sabbatical, then think about how much time you need and think about doubling it. I've talked before on this channel about lifestyle entrepreneurs that I admire. Now that I'm away from the city, in nature, near family, then I feel like I have the perfect conditions to actually build the life that I've been talking about and to break some of the nervous habits that I've picked up from my Goldman days that lasted through the startup. Things like constantly reading and rewriting a sentence until it's perfect. For the next couple of months, I am committed to building in public and answering the question, can you find a life that you love? Can you make—
That's cool that she's also building in public. I did that for a bit. That's what kind of started the public live streaming that I did, that I'm doing now, actually. It started out with me building my product in public. Now I'd stopped that because of course I wanted to grow the channel and get more engagement, all that kind of stuff. And I learned the hard way, disappointing that that's not like they don't want to see that. They just want to, it's like, fuck you, entertain me. So I'm not that entertaining right now. But that being said, this seems to get more engagement than my devlogs that I started. And honestly, I'm going to go look at analytics. Some of these things have been on YouTube for over 2 years now. I'm curious if some of them have broken over 10 views. I'm actually really curious to see.
Make a life you love and still pay the bills. I thought I wanted to be an insider. I thought I could be happy with a boring 9-to-5 job that funded my hobbies, but none of that was enough. What I really wanted was freedom and time to spend with people I cared about. Oh,
I'm subscribed already. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting. That wasn't enough. That sounds familiar. I've heard that a couple times in my life. Everything is good, but oh, it's not enough. All right, let's go look at this content. That's what I'm looking for. Shorts, not shorts, live. I'm actually quite curious to see what the numbers on those older live streams were like, because those were when I was only building exclusively. Oh, I guess it's gonna, okay, yeah. Shit, it's a lot. My gosh. This is why I tell people, like, just do stuff, just do it. And after a long enough period of time, you will impress yourself. I didn't know I had this many things on here. Okay, so the first one that wasn't removed, okay, I have broken double digits. So May 11, 2022, that's 3 years ago. I've managed to get a full 1 like. It was probably me liking my own stream. Let me see. I'm willing to put money it was me liking it. No, it wasn't. Okay. Well, I like it. Now it has 2 likes. I've doubled it. But there you go. Look at that. This is what I started off doing, building in public. Just return whatever this took. This may. You know, back then I had this, this pie in the sky idea that, is when I was growing up, it would have been nice to even just know what software engineers did, or just engineers in general, or what people who work in tech do. And to also be able to see that from one of those unicorn type developers who make it to that 7-figure mark. That was my thinking. And little did I know, no one gives a shit. So neither do I now. I've moved on in life. All right, let's go back and see what else we can watch. That was a good one. Behind Japan's rise of anti-foreigner sentiment. Oh no, let's watch this. This seems provocative. Oh, wait. Before I go. I still code. I don't code as much though. Not on live stream. For what it's worth though, I've been doing some shit. I've been doing shit. I just don't talk about it because I realize no one gives a shit. So I keep it to myself. Now, when it eventually turns into my 8 figures that I'm going after, people all of a sudden, oh my God, you're so lucky. How'd you do it? I'm gonna be like, fuck you. I'm not gonna say that. I'm sorry. I'm not actually gonna say it. I'll be like, I worked. Well, what did you do? Well, you can go look at my YouTube somewhere. You see that I did work for a long period of time, and then one day it paid off. That's generally how it works. When I first started programming, I'm not even gonna lie, when I first started programming, I had no intention of making money. I didn't even think about money back when I started. I wrote my first program when I was 13, 12. 7th grade. Seventh grade. I don't know how old I was. Whenever I was in 7th grade, I wrote my first program. And when I was doing it, it was mostly just for fun. In fact, it was only for fun. It was just interesting to me. Never in my life would I have imagined that thing that I decided to do because my mom bought me a TI-83 calculator and I read the manual. Never in my life would I imagine that would turn into what it's turned into. It took from 7th grade to 27. I'm gonna just go on a limb and say that's over 15 years for me to actually make something. So everything takes time, but no one ever looks at the effort put in at the front. They only look at the result that you've gotten at the end. And they're like, oh, you're lucky. And I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, yes, we're all lucky to be born here in America, but okay, sure. Just luck. It's generally people who have a external locus of control, people who let life happen to them that think that luck is actually a thing that just exists and not something where it's something that you have to accept the opportunity, you have to be prepared for it, and you have to have the skills to execute. And I don't know, it didn't feel like luck when I was staying up late at night, learning how to do these things when I was a kid. I was just doing it for fun, but you know, it didn't feel like luck when I wrote my first video game in the summer of my 8th grade year. That didn't feel like luck. It felt like I had to read a bunch of books and I had to learn a bunch of stuff and struggle. That's what that felt like. It didn't feel like luck. You know, same when I was in college. It didn't feel like luck when I was struggling trying to get my multiplayer Tetris game to work. You know, I don't know, it didn't feel like luck.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. That was funny.
That laugh though.
All right, so like I said, I told you I got this I hate men, pipeline.
Yeah.
So my algorithm is completely
Fucked.
crazy.
Yeah, same.
I pop in one video and then it's like, how much do you want to hate this group? And I'm like, not at all. They're like, we don't care.
We don't care.
Yep.
We're gonna put
Yep.
you in this room with everyone else who hates them.
Say hi.
Yeah. And now it's men.
You're a man and you don't like when women say, oh my god, I hate men, watch this video. A woman says, I hate men. That means because she's largely had negative experiences with men. But it's not all men. I know, but it's a lot, and the sentiment underlying that is we don't know which men are safe. So if you become reactive, you start yelling at us about how it's not all men and some men are good. Show us. Don't get defensive, just be there and listen to what we have to say, because trust me, you will be horrified by a lot of our experiences. If we find a man that we like, we will be loyal for as long as we possibly can. There will be no one to even cheat with. We don't like most men. We stay away from them because we feel unsafe.
This is a bit like the racism thing. I hate men because I feel unsafe with them. I'm happy that she says that to me because I don't feel safe with them. Because I know that there's some unresolved issue that you had. I understand that you didn't heal from certain things, but then you're gonna take some things that I might do. You're gonna take it. You're biased, so you're gonna take certain things I'm gonna do in certain interactions. You're gonna be like, he did it, and it was menacing when that did not happen. So at least I know that you're like that, and I never deal with you. I never want to deal with you. I never want to be in the same room as you.
Honestly, I think this is something that, as you mature as a man, you become more like Preach. I'm very much like him. I don't need you in my life. You feel unsafe? Okay, like stay the fuck away from me. How about that? Because it goes both ways. I don't feel safe around you. You know, I like to flip the script on people, and they don't know how to handle it a lot of times. They're like, wait, what? It's like, nah, I don't want to be around you at all. And works out. But then they'll go around asking. I've never asked this, 'cause I don't give a shit, but they're asking, well, where are all the good men? And my response would be, we're avoiding your ass. Like, why the fuck? Why would a good man approach you? Interesting. You think highly of yourself. When
I was doing comedy in the era of the Me Too, and then some girls expressed that I don't feel safe. When the girls was too much like that, I was like, I don't feel safe being alone with you in a green room. And I would used to get up and leave that person alone. Oh my God, it's not fair. I'm lonely. Yup. Well, yeah. At least I'm safe.
Well, do you think it's...
Yeah, that's the thing, is like they create their own problems. And then they get upset about it. It's like, well, make up your fucking mind. Do you want to feel safe? Okay, feel safe. Don't complain when we don't want to be in a room with you, or we don't want to talk to you, or we don't want to help you. Don't complain. At least you're safe, because that's what you value the most. So go be safe. But they don't like that. And what I found is that they don't like anything. So it is what it is.
You're saying that when it's like pretty good odds that like vast majority of women you'll meet will like have had times where men have put their hands on them or groped them or like, you know what I'm saying? So like it's a number that's incredibly high.
100%.
And for their own safety, they have to be wary to a certain degree. 100%. So is it even fair?
I've been groped. I'm not over here bitching and moaning about, my safety. I don't feel safe. Nah, it's like, okay. I've been groped and my life didn't deteriorate. I've had women put their hands on me in places that I didn't tell them they could. I guess I'm not as soft.
Fair of you to compare that? Like, even when you compared it earlier to the way that...
Yeah, they're your thoughts.
The way that like when someone's overtly prejudicial, you're glad because you feel like it's the same thing, but it's not really, because a lot of the people who are overly prejudicial based on race are just doing so out of ignorance and not necessarily personal experiences they've had.
Is that what the word he's trying to say?
Whereas women, they're speaking about experiences that men have put them through. I don't think those two things are analogous.
Do you feel comfortable with me being next to you?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yes, because I still have my penis.
I could tell he wasn't expecting that one.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. That was funny. Yeah, that's fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's funny.
I could tell that priest was not ready for that one.
To be honest, because like I'm like this now, but nigga, I'll bless your heart if I need to. Yeah, nigga. If I'm in danger, I'm like a chameleon. I roll up on you, bro. Bless your heart with kindness. Bless your heart. Yeah. I might have had a sex change. Oh my God. But best believe I could turn the switch off.
Yo, my guy.
I just wanted to be able to say
Get the fuck out of here.
Let me be able to say that.
That's the funniest shit you said in a long time, my nigga.
Thank you. I just kept picturing this whole time. I just kept picturing some white person coming up to me and be like, I hate all black people. And now somehow it's my job to make them understand that no, there's some good black people. There's some good. Some of us are decent. We're not all bad. No, bitch, it's not my fucking job to spend this time. Like, I get it. You've had some bad experiences. God bless you. I hope you do your healing. The idea that you can just go around to the world and project that to other people and they have to fight to prove to you that they're not like the other ones is crazy. Guys, we need to stop projecting whatever previous hurt that we have onto everyone afterwards. Holding that is going to hold yourself back and it's going to make everybody have to jump some extra hurdles for what? Again, I gave the example of the white person with the black because it's not reasonable. You could never go up to a black person and be like, I've had some, and I could never go up to a white person and be like, fuck white people, and then expect them to work hard to make them prove to me that they're not like, I think one of the things that sucks the most, just as being a dude or whatever, remember we've talked about this before? How like when it comes to kids, there's already like a presupposition that men may be diddling these kids. And so you're already looked at as a bit of a predator.
100%.
Man, the reality is,
nieces and nephews, I love
the reality is that so many women do that. They just get away with it. And this, it's never happened to me, but it's happened to someone very close to me. Nothing happened to her. So yeah.
Spending time with them. I enjoy myself or whatever it is, but I've been able to be screened by their parents, so I know everything's okay. But I hate the idea that people try to present me some random kids. I'm like, no, don't even, because I already see like the heightened security that they have when so I'm like, you know what? It's fine. And I almost hate it because I feel like the kid can sometimes pick up on it. And I think it creates this barrier where it's like, okay, I don't want to seem like other, so I'm going to do this like, keep it at arm's distance. And I guess I relate this to say, I don't want to have that exact same experience with women, but I already do that. When I'm walking down the street and I
do that
see
too.
a woman coming down
I do
towards
it too.
me,
I go to the other side of the street.
straight.
Bruh, man. Damn. He does it too in Canada. I do that. If I'm walking down the street and or I'm in the street or sometimes I'm on the sidewalk. If there's a woman, I go to the other side. It's gotten to the point where if there's an elevator situation, unless it's here at my house. I don't know. But if it's somewhere else, I won't even get in the same elevator with them. I'm good. I'll pass. For work, I generally don't want to be in the same room with them alone at all. Even if there's someone else in the room, if it's not at least 2 or 3 other people and another dude, I don't want to be in that room. You can call it unreasonable, but I don't really give a shit what you think about what I do to protect myself. It's like, you could do you, I'm gonna do me. And if my life suffers from not having females, then okay, I'm cool. I have enough of them in my life to where I'm good with having just them. I don't need any other ones. So yeah, it's very interesting that this is the environment that gets created. I grew up in the Me Too. Like, I didn't really grow up, but formative years was during Me Too. That was like high school and college. I remember all of the stuff. They brought all of the dudes and they told us about all these things and all these things that can happen and make sure that we don't. I'm just like, you know what? I am going to just not deal with these girls at all. How about that? I'm a real solution. Like, I bring real solutions. That's a real solution. They could the next day say that they said, okay, all right, how about this? I just leave them alone. I'll just stay away from them. How about that? Oh no, you shouldn't do. No, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna stay away. I'm gonna keep my distance, and I'm gonna get through college without a rape charge. Go me.
Many times you have no idea. Not because I plan on diddling her against my will. It's just because I already...
You're against your will? I'm sorry.
You know? Baby oil. I don't want to... You already know.
Is he about to get the baby oil out again?
God.
Oh my gosh.
Got my bottles
He's
right
about to
here.
put that shit on his face. I know it.
I'm gonna pour it on you. Hey, make sure you shiny, girl. Not because of that, right? Like, there's a lot of things that I've done as a dude to make myself seem smaller, just to make ladies more comfortable. And I hate every second of it. I get why it's there. It's just one of those things. Like, I'll be walking home sometimes, I'll leave the metro and there'll be a woman ahead of me, and I've like written about this on stage. But it's just like there's this awkward tension where she's looking over her shoulder. I'm like, I just want to go home and masturbate. That's all I want to do. And you're in my way and you're fucking slow. So I will literally cross the street, speed up, and then get back in the shit. And it just goes to like, this expectation, I understand why you have it, but you have to understand it's incredibly unfair. It is. And I don't think it's a healthy thing to come into the relation. And there's not even women I'm dating. So if a woman comes into this relationship with all this shit, it's just like, bro, I just think it's a lot.
Honestly, that wouldn't even be a relationship at that point. It's just like, nah, go on, keep it moving.
Possible and come at it from the other angle. There are a lot of women who've had some really negative experiences, and as a result, they're worried about their safety, so there's certain precautions they take. Fine, but I hope you also understand.
Here's the crazy part though. If they really feel threatened for their safety, they always call another man. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that just, man, that's actually very crazy. They're so afraid of men, but when they actually fear for their safety in their lives, they call on men. That just make sense.
Understand that there's also men who come into these experiences with negative experiences with women they've dated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you probably would not feel it's fair if men imposed themselves on you and said, I expect you to prove to me that you're one of the good ones.
Right.
I question that. But yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I think there's some valid concerns that women have that I think as men we don't acknowledge. And you know what I think this is really? I also think that what men are talking about in terms of that frustration is real. It's not like it's not real. I would just say that I think this is just one of those, like, we're doing the best with what we got. It's not fair to the dudes, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect the ladies to not have some form. I just think maybe girls, maybe we don't say we hate men. Maybe we don't use such antagonistic and aggressive language that ostracizes them. But it's okay to say there's some wariness. I think men.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah, say it. I don't say you hate men. That's fine. I will reciprocate, and what you may find is that I am more effective at the things that I do because I'm a man. It may not work out. That's the people who suffer. It's always the women who suffer the most, which is, I don't see why they haven't realized that. You probably don't want to hate on a group of people who your rights depend on. Just saying.
Wait, let me ask you, if women said there's some level of awareness that they have of men, I think you'd probably be okay with it, right?
Sure.
Yeah? No, tell me.
Sure. No, the thing that happened is that the problem that I have with this whole thing is that me having to prove that I'm a good person. It's exactly like when I'm getting stopped by the police. I'm minding my business and stuff. Well, you have to prove that you're not. Nigga, I didn't do shit. Well, I don't know that. Okay. Do I look like I did something? No. Then what are we talking about, bruh?
True.
But if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I don't feel safe with you either.
Yeah,
that's it.
Fuck the police.
Hey, you know what I mean? There's no song that says fuck the fire department. There's a reason for that. So
I might rock this blue, but I ain't with you.
and it's fine. You know, the girls are gonna, and I only hear the girlies, yeah, but okay, the same way that you feel unsafe with the police. Yeah, but I don't feel unsafe every time I see a cop. Every time he does some fuck shit, I'm like, oh, he's a fucker right there.
You know? Cops like trans women.
That was a good example. I've had interactions with cops, and for the most part, they're mostly cordial. For the most part, I've only had one interaction that I can remember that was bad. You know, that was the only interaction. But other than that, like, they just seem normal to me.
What?
Just saying, they might be like very macho, but in the back of their cruiser, I'm just saying, those handcuffs, they have a different use. Just want to hear in the store. Sorry.
I don't know what the fuck going on.
I will say, when I have my hair covering my face like this, it takes me back to my high school days with emo niggas.
Yeah.
That shit. Now I understand why they did this shit. I used to think like it was stupid.
Cutting my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
Suffocation. No breathing. Don't give a fuck if I can't breathe.
This is my last resort. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, definitely.
The wig had to come out for that one. You feel me? Papa Roach.
But that's not very emo. That's the beginning of the emo. Emo, the height of emo with the hair and the
emo were quiet. They were really quiet.
Or that was the worst thing
like that gothic people.
I will say that era.
So long and good night.
I will
so long and good night. That was emo. That was emo. My Chemical Romance, fucking emo.
Yeah, white people, y'all was killing it with the music.
I
was banging into everything that was making.
You was banging? Head banging.
At any rate, okay.
This is not happening.
I have to fix the wig. But, I know my initial reaction was just like very defensive, and I think it's natural. You hear something like you hate all men, especially as a black person hearing like I hate black people, like it's like, oh, well, this is very, and I've always hated the idea that I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
I think this is a middle ground. Men try to make some effort to understand why women have this kind of defensive attitude. I think also for women, understand that despite that, it's slightly unfair to just come into every dynamic expending, you know, like any dude you meet, to be accepting of your language when you're talking like this.
It's like I can't live my life. I understand. I really understand.
I mean, no one's gonna hold them accountable, so they can do what they want.
I heard the stories and everything and stuff, and I understand that. But it's like I just shut up when that happens. When they just complain, I just like, okay. I don't go like not all men, because that brings nothing to the table. That brings absolutely nothing. But if you're like her, she was like specifying, because I'm really like, oh man, all of you, and there's been some crazy like that, but it's not the norm. It's not everybody. I'm just like, okay, man, there's nothing I could do. I don't feel safe with you too. But other than that, I'm like, I understand where it's come from.
Yeah.
You were talking about, whenever you come out the metro and then there's some girls that are, I feel uneasy because now I gotta prove that I do the same thing. If I cross a girl, we walking on the sidewalk, I cross her, I make sure I don't look in her direction.
Yep.
I look away. So no, it's not an interest. You're not an interest.
Listen, the more attractive a woman is, the less I'll look.
I'll do this bow away that I call, which is you see her from afar, and then if we cross our eyes, I go like that.
I don't even need to do that.
Like my
peripheries are able to catch the titties. You understand? I know. I don't even gotta look at it. Like the corner of my eye was like, yo.
I was not expecting that
one.
It
just looks like in this direction. It's easy.
I was not talking about her titties.
But I was. I thought that's what he was about to say. I am.
Okay.
You are an involved man. My apologies.
Yes, you better believe.
Okay.
So I walk, and if we cross each other, there's gonna be that thing that I do where I just look away. You're not. You're not a focus point. So I get it. There's some things that we do like that to make them feel at ease. But when a girl is just like, yeah, you men are just, I'm just like, okay, I know. There's nothing I could do. There's nothing I could say. What's the worst thing I could say? What's the worst thing I could say?
There you go. All right. Well, that's it for today's video. Let us know what y'all think.
That was funny. Let's go ahead and share this one out. I don't think y'all need to know who they are, but you know, Alvin Priest. I love them. They're pretty dope. Oh man, there's a lot of stuff here. How long have I been? All right, so I'm out. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Peace.